Now you can be yourself even more on career mode, where you can basically make yourself as a character, and then
Let's
you
just
get
stop right here, Lawrence. Stop right here.
Hello, Kit. Character from a drama entered the room.
That was literally like only floating horses.
We've got to keep this in it. We've got to keep this in.
But his face isn't in.
Brian, that could actually be a good thing.
For fuck's sake.
So you have a face for radio.
Yo, fucking, you look terrified there when the.
It was just. The screen.
What are we
went
doing?
Back,
what the fuck are we doing here?
What?
Why is he here?
Well, he's here to give con. He's here to give con.
I'm here for.
Fuck.
I'm here for a technical inspection.
Yeah, you'll see.
What's he here for?
You'll see in a minute.
Can we get on with this
You'll
shit?
see in a minute. You ready?
Right, what's happening?
Right.
The UFC game I'm sponsoring with.
Ready? Right. Okay. Here we go. Right. Do you want to start again?
Read it.
Right.
Just carry on.
With the career mode, what you can actually do is you can create yourself. Now, you already created yourself as a fighter, but then you can continue and you can earn your way to the UFC, become a real fighter within the UFC, start to promote your fight and
Win a
build
world
rivalries. That's exactly what I'm saying.
I mean, I want to be world champ.
Big Brian, you called yourself the gorilla on that. What kind of people would you be fighting if you were super heavyweight? What were you?
You
were a heavyweight.
Cain Velasquez. People like that.
Yeah, people in the game, you can be fighting against
Francis
those people.
Ngannou.
Yeah, you can make your fighter better to get to a point where...
Can I train them up, can I?
Yeah, and you can banter the other guys off on social media, and it says literally here in the read, become the GOAT. I didn't know GOATs could compete in
Greatest
UFC,
of all time.
But,
Or be the gorilla.
From the initial fight to the World Fighting Alliance to your first UFC bout, your actions both inside and outside the octagon will shape your career. So I don't know what kind of fighter you'd be on Twitter. Would you tweet a lot, or would you be a more mysterious fighter?
I'm an actively sort of mouthy guy. I like to get in their heads, tweet them. I'm going to beat them to a pulp.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Do you think you are the kind of guy who gets in someone else's head? And
Definitely.
Because,
definitely.
And then at the same time, when you get in the ring, are you mouthing off at the other guy?
Oh yeah, I'm talking shit 24/7.
What I did quite like was your taunts when you did it. You're one of the ones who does the whole come at me
I'm
thing.
a taunter. I'm a taunter.
You actually are a taunter. Yeah, it's quite sinister sometimes.
Yeah. I'm definitely that guy.
No matter what stage you're at in your UFC career, there's always someone looking to make their name by taking you out. And that sort of correlates with your YouTube
the first time
experience
I've
as
been
well.
taken out in a long time, I tell you.
Yeah.
I'm always the one paying for dinner.
Is there anyone that you would worry could take you out? Like if you faced Francis Ngannou, would you be worried about
He hasn't got much of a gas tank. I'm bigger and stronger than him. I think I'll take him. No problem.
Yeah.
It's the champion. Stipe Miocic.
I knew it was Miocic.
He's a pain in the arse.
Yeah.
He might be the last one, but then I still think I'll get the job done.
Yeah. I can actually
He's a fireman, you know, in real life, him.
Really?
He's a fireman.
Right.
And UFC heavyweight champ.
In the States?
Literally, he puts fires out and then he goes and kicks ass. So
that's actually really badass. That's more badass than a podcast.
Yeah. So is that enough? Is that all we need to say?
Yeah, let's just cut the bit out where you go, is that enough? You can choose 8. You can choose from 8 unique training gyms, each of which has its own fighting discipline.
Yeah.
Have you thought about which discipline you go into? So there's like a speciality.
I want to be someone who is dangerous everywhere, punching and on the ground.
Okay.
So, you know.
The interesting, it says gym loyalty can have its rewards, but you truly grow as a fighter.
I think I'd go American Kickboxing Academy. That's the Cain Velasquez one.
Okay.
I want to fight like him.
Well, in this game, you actually get authentic UFC training partners,
Yeah.
people who actually train with the UFC fighters. And then the interesting side is sometimes you might have to change up your gym if, say, one of your aspects is weak or you want to go in a different direction.
Or if you fight someone from the same gym, then you might need to get some different skills.
I feel like they've really thought about what a real fighter goes through and tried to bring people as close as possible to that experience.
It's as real as it gets, Lawrence.
It is. That's true, actually. And if you want to get as real
hopefully
as it
that
gets,
check is as real as it gets.
And believe me, I don't think people pay in checks anymore.
No,
but
you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, if you do want to get as real as it gets, then go to the link in the description, which links you to the game. I also there's a link to the trailer somewhere down there. Thank you very much to UFC 3 and EA for sponsoring this. This podcast is sponsored by, powered by EA, as they say.
Powered by EA.
I quite like they say powered.
My house is going to be powered by EA for the next month.
Yeah.
Thanks, EA. On today's True Geordie Podcast, Kieron Dyer. Thanks for coming, mate.
No problem.
Good to have you.
Bit of a weird one for me. Got a message off Alan Shearer last week saying Kieron Dyer wants to be on your podcast. The 15-year-old me right now was like, fucking hell, I'm doing alright.
Yeah, and you went, Alan, stop trolling.
Well, with this book, I have to do a lot of publicity, and I was a bit apprehensive of going back up to the northeast.
Yeah.
Like you said, I've got mixed reactions back up there, and I'd seen the podcast, and I see that the base that you touch. So I said to my publicist for the book, I said I need to do this podcast. So obviously I text Al and said, can you have a word? And here we are.
Unbelievable, mate.
Makes sense.
But I must say, I hadn't seen the rants that you made against me and Craig. So then after I'd seen the Shearer, I see a few. And when you started calling him a little dwarf elf and caning him, I was thinking, this should be interesting. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not as big. The thing is, back in the day, this is what breaks my heart.
Yeah.
I love watching Craig Bellamy. I love watching you play. Like, we had the best team in my... I actually prefer the Bobby team to the Keegan team. I thought it was much more fun to watch, more organised, even if it was still the Wild West. So, I guess we'll start with that.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that hurts is when we see you on the debate. And actually, I've got an actual quote from another fan, because he sent us it. I said, I've got Kieron Dyer on the podcast. Any questions, let us know. And I thought, you know what it is? This is what a lot of Newcastle fans have said, and he sort of summed it up.
Yeah.
After being set up for life by Newcastle United and worshipped by the fans, why did he shit all over us in the debate? Unrealistic, my arse, he said. Because when you said that we thought we were a Champions League club, that really pissed a lot of Newcastle fans off, considering we've been relegated twice in the last 10 years.
I stick by that. I think that with your fan base and the support that you give to the team, I think that you deserve, well, maybe it's because I think that you deserve to be not a relegation team fighting it. And when I was there as a player and we were having successful, when we came fifth that season and didn't make the Champions League, we were classed as failures that season, and that's the reality of the situation. So when I was on the debate and saying that, maybe it was harsh on the fans because, like you said, you have been relegated, but maybe it's me as well, because I think Newcastle are more than we're happy to be in the Premier League. And like I said, I do think if you stay up this season and Benitez and stuff happen, I do think your expectations will be that, hey, we can challenge for Europe, and that's the next step.
There's a difference between hope and expectation. I think everyone hopes for that, and especially with a manager like Benitez. But I think I agree with what you're saying about what it was like when you were there. I remember myself when we didn't qualify for Champions League. I remember thinking, fuck's sake. Like, and actually,
if only I had a platform to make videos.
Just generally, the fact that Bobby Robson was let go for that as a failure is insane. Looking back on it, it was the dumbest thing that's ever happened in the whole of the Premier League history.
Do you think you should have made Champions League that season?
I had a lot of injury problems that season. I think Craig had his injury problems. The complacency kicked in as well. This is easy, we're a Champions League. So the story, especially with so many young, immature players, you kind of take your eye off the ball. Mm-hmm. Definitely took our eye off the ball. Even when we had the Champions League qualifier, I think we won the first leg 1-0 away. I think us as players thought we just had to turn up at St James's Park. We'd win that game easily. I think Freddie and all the directors had already booked their flight to go to the south of France for the Champions League draw. So again, maybe we took it all for granted and thought this was just going to be just ongoing.
For the record though, mate, like, I appreciate what it was like when you were there, and the expectations were silly and we had been spoiled at the time, and I think every Newcastle fan looks back at that with fond memories for that reason. But now Newcastle is a real bad place for football atmosphere. Like, we don't get us wrong, they cheer the team on, but it's like, it feels like the life of the club is just being strangled out by Mike Ashley, and Champions League isn't even in the minds of any fan. It's like we've got no hope of anything. Like, just staying in the Premier League until someone buys us off Mike Ashley is actually all we're hoping for. Like, that's the hope, not even the expectation. I think hope went years ago.
See, maybe that's my error, and I'd be the first to put my hands up, because I haven't been back to Newcastle. I've been back to Newcastle twice, I think, in all the times that I've left. So I'm just going on probably the expectations I was as a player.
What was your experience like when you went back?
I was all good, actually, because it was my missus's birthday, so we went up there for a weekend because she'd never been up there for a while. So we went up there to see some old friends. She said she wanted to go to the Metro Centre. I was absolutely dreading it. Just walking down. But
why did she say that? Did she not?
Why? Yeah, I know. I just
women like shopping, mate.
Because people plus people talk about the Trafford Centre and the Metro Centre, and
you've got to see it. It's a once in a lifetime thing.
Exactly. So I put my baseball cap on and off. But the love I got was surprising, and the general quote I got is, "We wish we had players like you still," kind of thing, which was in a way was quite pleasing, rewarding, if you know what I mean. Because I did leave in a kind of in a sour kind of way. It was I can always remember, it was, we played Watford in the Glenn Road had just been sacked, and Nigel Pearson was caretaker manager. We played Watford away, and I don't want to sound big-headed and that, but we were bottom of the league that season. I missed the first few months of that season. I came back into the team. I think the first game I scored against Arsenal away, and me, Oba, Febby Martins and Scott Parker that season kept the team up. People might disagree, and I'll go on a limb and say that, and it got to the stage we played Reading away towards the end of the season, and we were now going on the bus to the game, and Glenn Roeder calls me down to the bus, and he says, "I want you to be captain today." And obviously, because of what happened with the captain's armband before, I was like, I didn't really want to do it, but he was saying, "Look, you've been brilliant for me this season, and I think it would be a great honour for you and for myself." And I took the captain's armband. It was Michael Owen's first game back from his cruise ship as well, if you can remember, but it was Reading away, and we lost the game. We didn't play very well, and like a dick that I am, I pick up the Chronicle the next day or listen to the Three Legends and get an absolutely, how dare he wear the captain's armband, he doesn't care about the club, and la-di-la-di-la, and it hurt, because I started to mature, and we'll probably talk on the bit where people say I give out this attitude of I don't care, and like I said, it was the last game of the season then, and we played Watford, and we were doing the warm-up by the away fans, and you know the away fans always takes over a ground, and the fans sung individual songs for every player except for me and Stephen Carr. And listen, I've had my few scrapes in the past and done my things, and listen, I'm not saying I should be worshipped or whatever, but like I said, for what I did that season to try and keep us up in the Premier League, I thought, our love affair's over now. Maybe they're sick and tired of me. I'm sick and tired of them now. So I had in my mind that this is my last season. So finished the last game of the season, I met up with England. Obviously, Sam Allardyce had been named England manager. I'm not England manager, Newcastle manager. And he comes to the Lowry. We're standing in the Lowry with the England team. He comes to speak to me and Michael Owen, and he sounded good. His points come across. He was so advanced with all the technology and the sports science. So I thought I'd give him a go. So I'll come back to Newcastle, and then when pre-season come, we play the Carlisles, the Hartlepool of the world, and we're paying Carlisle. And I can remember coming off the bus and some fan says, "Dyer, you fucking dick," or something like that, "you prick, fuck off home," or something. And then after the game, Sam disappears and me and Nigel Pearson are left in the thing, and I just kind of broke down and just said, "You know what, enough's enough, I want to go home." And then the rest is history.
That's mad that one fan
that was just
can make such a can sway you that much.
Yeah,
but obviously you kind of made your mind up, but that he sort of put the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I was like, whatever I do, how successful I am from now, because there were so many times I won them back over, but it then came to the stage whenever you had a bad game or
it goes against you.
I'm the first one they're all grown at. And listen, again, I'm not saying it's unjust because of all the cock-ups I've had. They had every right to feel that way, but I felt I was always playing a losing battle, that I had to perform unbelievable every game, because if you drop off at one bit, then I'm the fall guy.
When I read a bit of your book, and I must admit, right, my impression was like most Newcastle fans' impression of you. You've been given all the fucking talent in the world, you didn't make the most of it, and you're a bit of a knob. And that was what I thought. Enough, in your prime, especially. Yeah, of course, yeah. And the amount of stories about you in Newcastle, you are like the king of bling, like everything that.
Not just Newcastle, by the way. If I said to any journalist, "I've got Kieron Dyer coming on," everyone went, "Some stories about him."
Yeah. Like, I guess for today's generation who are watching, like whatever people think Raheem Sterling gets a hard ride now, yours was times 10.
100%.
But you did bring a lot of it on yourself. I understand that you're a bit of a victim, because in your mind at some point along the way you were like, I've changed now, I've grown up. But because you changed in your mind doesn't mean everyone else's perception of you had changed as well. And you turned the corner and you're like, actually I'm going to book my ideas up now. People are like, you're still the same bloke. Just because you've changed doesn't mean everything you didn't also do.
Do you feel a bit trapped by that though? That must feel quite frustrating.
Yeah, I do. I think just going on the Jungle, I'm a celebrity. When I came out the Jungle, the amount of positive press I had, where I think I touch on it in the book, where one of the first texts I got was from Jonathan Woodgate, and he was like, "All my mates thought you were an absolute dick, and I can't believe what a decent guy you actually are." And I brought most of that on myself, because the king of bling, which I don't regret. It's funny now that I was the king of bling with the earrings. You heard the story of me leaving earrings in the thing. I don't own a watch now. Yeah. I just think, what, were you just sold all my jewellery and that?
Is that a conscious effort then? Do you think you?
No, I just become mature. What? I don't need a £50,000 watch. Yeah, just like. But at the time, and I touched on it, I came from poverty, and a lot of footballers come from poverty, and you get the money and you get the fame, and listen, I could drop down dead tomorrow, so I wanted to have a good time, and so I don't regret of being the king of bling or spending my money and thing and buying my friends watches, buying my family watches, because these people are never going to be in a position or we ever thought, like to enjoy ourselves. So I don't regret that, but again, I was just an immature kid.
There's one thing that come across me when I'm reading your book and that, and actually some of the interviews that I've watched with you. Everyone thought you were this full of yourself, uber confident guy, especially with all the stories in Newcastle. But actually, you are quite an insecure person. Like,
of course, I think obviously what happened to me was as a kid. I had to have a sense of bravado. So when I when Joey Barton got Peter Kay in at QPR, and I sat down, I broke down, and he...
Can you explain that? Because we're sort of jumping all over it right now, but I guess that'll sort of give a lot of context to how your life sort of began under difficult circumstances. So you're with this psychiatrist in QPR, and that's Joey Barton's recommendation.
So the funny thing about this, everyone loves Joey in his way. So basically, Peter Kay came in, and it wasn't to see individuals, it was because Joey was having a rant at the coaching staff and Neil Warnock. So Peter Kay was brought in as Peter Kay was brought in as like a passiver, someone in between. So basically, us as players would go in and tell him what we thought about the manager and the coaching staff, and then the manager and the coaching staff would speak to Peter Kay, and then he'd kind of try and sort it, because Joey, the training ground shit, training shit, this is shit, which, listen, Joey's a very honest person. If he demands, that's just the way he is in life. So Peter Kay wasn't there for individuals, and it just got to the stage that just hearing him in these meetings, I liked what he had to say. So around this same time as well, my mum and my ex, the mother of 3 of my boys, they thought I was depressed, but they thought I was depressed through my injuries. So it got to the stage that Peter was around the club for a while, and so he said people could see him individually. So I went to him to talk about depression. I'm saying, look, people are worried about me because my whole prime has been taken, and so we were just talking general like this, and he was basically saying he doesn't think I'm depressed from injuries, and there's more to it, and he's probing, and then it just came flooding out, and I told him about the child abuse, and then when he started making me realise, and he's just like, wow, how it is. I always thought I was stubborn, and it wasn't so much I was stubborn, it was just like, so I'd fall out with you, like you'd bring me a Diet Coke and I wanted a Coke, and you were like, and I'd fall out with people over that, like, you're disrespecting me. So he was saying, because I was disrespected when I was a 10-year-old, I have vowed, that in my psyche, that I will never be disrespected again. Right. I will never show vulnerability again. And then when you go through what has happened in your career with managers, teammates, players, I just put this whole barrier around me, this whole bravado, and it formed my life. But again, I think I touched when I did the interview in the thing, I don't want people to think that I'm using child abuse as an excuse for some of the decisions, like me falling out with manager, or if I felt disrespect the manager, I'm not having it because I couldn't show vulnerability and stuff. So some of that is true, but like you said, for things like Iron Napa and being sent home from Marbella, the Lee Bowyer fight, that's got nothing to do with. So I'm not using that as an excuse, but it was scary to realise how much of my life it did affect, and the bravado and this like superhero seaman I'm not, kind of thing. So I've come on such since I've had the help, because like even crying, when I cried in the jungle, and that would never have happened if I wouldn't have had that advice. No way would I show that vulnerability. So
I've cried in public before, so I can identify with that.
Because was that so you'd never mentally drawn a line? Had you sort of buried that experience, or what was? Because a lot of people go, well, it must be this. Had you ever drawn that line?
So basically, when it happened, I kept it a secret for 20 years. Right. I may have told one friend here and there, but I never went into details of what happened to me. I did in the book, and I just thought I'd overcome it. You know what I mean? I just thought I'd overcome it all on my own. I don't think about it no more. It's locked away. But I didn't realise that it affected me in other things, like for instance, my oldest boy, Kai, he's 17 now, but when he was 11, 12, and I've never hit my kids, never will. I'm not that kind of parent to discipline them. But he's a sensitive kid. He's a bit like me. I am sensitive, even though I bought on this bravado. So it's crazy. So every time he showed weak, if he'd fall over and he just got a little graze and he's crying, I would snap like, "Don't cry, man up," and da 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 da. And like you could see like family members and like thinking, bloody hell, he's hard on him. And it got to the stage where my ex was saying to me like, "You're proper hard on him," and I was like, "No, I'm not. He just needs to." And I didn't. I just thought that was normal behaviour. And again, it was Peter Kay saying, "Or 11 or 12, you see, and you just don't want him to be taken advantage of him." And
you're trying to harden him up.
Yeah, and so the amount of relationships and friendships and stuff it affected, it was proper. And I didn't see this. I just thought that was just who I am, my thing. But thank God for Peter Kay.
Do you think that was part of the generation you were part of? That you guys were less... It was sort of, you were on the cusp of, like you say, you only just met Big Sam and he was bringing technology into the game.
Social media wasn't even a thing when you were
Social
playing.
media wasn't a thing. Sir Bobby was a bit of an exception of a manager at that point because he was emotionally intelligent.
I think also the old school. Everyone's talking about the old school regime, and how we need to bring it back, and the kids need to be doing all these jobs, and they need to be around the first team because academies are separated from first team. And I hear all these debates, but I think it has a bit of a damaging effect. And I'll tell you, there's a story in the book, but I think so. When I was a youth team and player at Ipswich, and I was doing really well, and I'd have to train with the first team. I dreaded it, and because it was a hard school. They'd
kick the lumps out of you,
and the way they talk to you, you fucking cunt, and da 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 da. And there was one. I weren't allowed to name him because of legal reasons in the book, but there was a senior player at Ipswich at the time, and he was one of the main players, and I was only 16, 17, and I came in training and I ripped him up in training. Absolutely destroyed.
I bet how fast you were. It would have been a fucking
year was
nightmare.
It would have been about 96.
Cool. Look up the team.
Yeah. You can do, yeah.
Yeah.
And
just work it out for yourselves. Senior.
Yeah. And I ripped him up, and all the other senior players were laughing at him. So after training, I've gone in to help the youth team lads, because if we finished our jobs earlier, we could go home. Otherwise, we could be at the ground until 4 or 5 o'clock. So I'm helping the change room, helping clean up the change room. This player's come in and he's just wearing a slip. He's completely naked. He's wearing a slip. He comes in the middle of the thing and he's like, and he starts straining, and you think, what the hell's he straining for? All of a sudden, piss is dribbling down his legs as he's pissing in his slip, and he's taking a shit in his slip. He takes off the slip and throws it by my feet. It splatters on the floor. He says, "Clean that up, you shit. You little shit." So I'm thinking, bloody hell, and this is all because I did my job, really. Yeah. So after this incident, and I mentioned the book, we go to Malaysia for the Under-20 World Cup, and we were well behaved on that trip, and then we lose to Argentina in the quarterfinals, and Argentina had Riquelme. Everyone knows about Riquelme for Argentina. Aymar and Cambiasso playing in their team, and we were after the game we lost. We went to the hotel bar, let loose, and I mean let loose, and it got to the stage about midnight, 1 o'clock, all pissed, and someone thought it would be a good idea if we all got a plastic bag and took it in turns to shit in this bag.
Who you can't say who
yeah,
you thought
I can't,
was a good idea?
No. And someone thought.
No matter how drunk I've ever been, I've never thought get the bag.
But this is just the mindset and the mentality of.
This was what football was like back then.
This is in the under-20 England, represent your country.
The golden generation.
So the golden generation is when we were in the full England team, but this is under-20. So basically, this bag gets passed round by round, and people are dumping in it. I didn't dump in the bag, but it wasn't because
you were holding it.
Yeah, it wasn't because I wouldn't have. It's because I didn't need a dump at the time.
Right. It's 1 a.m. in the morning.
So I'm not taking any brownie points for it. So
don't call them brownie points.
yeah. So basically this bag's passed around, and then one of the players goes and hangs it on our manager's door.
Who was the manager at the time?
Ted Powell.
Right.
He was an FA coach who was our manager, and this bag was hung on his door. We don't know what happened to the bag. I don't know if someone an hour later thought it was a bad idea, removed the bag, or hotel found it, or the manager, because there was never an inquest. And I say in the book, like, that sums up everything that's wrong with English. We thought it was funny and banter, but that is everything what was wrong. The disrespect.
Was that 96 or something you said?
Yeah. So my first season in the Ipswich team was 96, 97, 97. So it's the 96-97 season.
Classic season.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that was
so,
even the national team though. Euro '96, they go and doing that stuff.
So you think? See, I say in the book, could you imagine Raquelme or Amar doing something like that?
No.
And then I'm saying, does that go from what we were that was a player shitting in front of me, throwing the couch as banter, and in that environment, is that in our mindset that this is the way we're going? When you got, so it was like a vicious circle, and when I've showed people the story and you read it, and I go into details, you're thinking, no wonder England have struggled the way they have.
Bag of shit.
That's what the chapter's called, the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I started reading it, I wasn't expecting that was going to be what it was about.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Because it is that's not normal. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's not. But we thought it was funny. We didn't think it was disrespectful. We just thought, this is great banter. We can all have a laugh at it. But
a shit in a bag.
But to put it on the manager of your country's door, and
did you not respect him then? Was that
we did? The guy was a great. It was no disrespect meant to the manager. Well, even though it's the biggest disrespect ever, we're not thinking that. We're just thinking how funny.
So going back to Ipswich, you're progressing through the ranks. Did you have any other encounters with this guy who pissed you off or pissed on the floor?
No, it was fine with me other than that, because every time in training after that, I just let him tackle me and let him get his confidence out. And
do you think he was quite fragile? Did you think, like, looking back at that, do you see an older guy who's got quite a fragile...
He's literally shitting himself.
He's literally shitting himself and throwing at him. I'd say that's the definition of fragile.
No, not at all. It was just... I just think that was the way it is.
How's that?
You have to batter the younger.
That's mental. That was the way it
is.
Like,
I used to have like a bum fluff of a tash, and they used to just like fucking take the piss out of me, saying if you like, it was just brutal back there. It was just.
How did you take that?
I hate, like I said, I'm a young lad, and you want to play in the first team. You want to train in the first team, and I was like, I don't want to train with the first team. I'd rather stay with my youth team and be happy. And but you just have to toughen up, and in a way, it does toughen you up. It does get you ready for the first team, because when we're talking about keeping the academy boys away from the first team, what happens? They're so fragile now. I'm coaching them. I can't even give them a hairdryer because they'd cry. Their parents will come in. There would be bullying claims, and so they have to be ready to go into the first team environment where they're going to make mistakes and teammates are going to dig them out, because I don't think they're ready because they are so fragile at the moment. So, but it's just getting the balance, because the way we had it and the way their antics were then, it has a serious...
You know how you're a coach now?
Mm.
When someone makes a big fuck up in training, how do you deal with that after... The way you
story. He goes in the middle of the changing room.
He goes, clean that up, you shit.
Again, I always say this, and I do want to go into that side of it, especially with Ipswich, hopefully. And yes, tactics are important, and yes, players are important and stuff. But the biggest thing I find is man management, because I talk on the Bobby Robson. His biggest strength was his man manager. He didn't treat the same players the same. Like Roy Keane came to Ipswich. The story is Roy Keane was manager at Ipswich, and it was just one way, and he treated every player a certain way. And all players are different, all players are things. So even with my 16s, I try to find out who can take a bit of a dig, who I need to put an arm around. So again, it depends who makes the mistakes. If I know someone who can take it and dig out, I'll dig him out in a subtle way, if you know what I mean. So, because that's very important.
So you smashed it at Ipswich, Newcastle come calling. What was it like getting that move to Newcastle?
I was shocked because, again, Leeds and Arsenal, it was the two big, I thought they was in the paper all the time. Arsenal, Leeds, the bid was going to be imminent. I just got back from while I was on holiday in Ayia Napa, I had a Vice Bowl message from Ruud Gullit, Harry Redknapp as well, which was, I was buzzing, showing on, repeating it for my friends on speakerphone. Listen to this, got Ruud Gullit. So when I went into George Burley's office and he said Newcastle, I was a bit, not deflated or anything. It was just, like, where's that come from? Because I thought he was going to say you're going to Leeds or Arsenal. So basically, I didn't have no time to think. George Burley basically said, we've accepted a bid from Newcastle. Your agent's now going to meet you at Stansted in 2 hours, and then you're going to Newcastle. So I literally got my mate to drive me to Stansted on a plane, straight to meet Freddie Fletcher on the tarmac, took me straight in to have a medical, signed the forms, and then was on a plane to Holland to meet the first team squad. So I didn't even have time to process or anything. But when I did, and you think about it, the two massive seller points were Ruud Gullit, because of what he achieved in the game and the sexy football man, and obviously Alan Shearer.
What was it like when you first met those two characters?
In awe kind of thing. In awe. Just the presence. It's just, they don't have to say nothing. It's just the respect they commanded.
And ironically, those two would end up in a battle of wills.
I was going to just come on to that, but literally I go to meet up in Holland on the Friday, and on the Saturday I knew that something weren't quite right, just the way Ruud Gullit would talk about him in meetings, because he pulled one meeting straight from Holland. We went to Scotland and we had a meeting. There was me, Duncan Ferguson, Gary Speed, and that's when he bought Gomar and Dumas and Marcelino, and we're all in this meeting. Shearer's not, and the way he was talking was that Shearer wasn't going to be in the starting team, and so I'm thinking, what the hell's going on here, kind of thing. So I didn't really get time to process the move, and I had no regrets about it, because that was the best period of my life with regards to football, 100%. But that whole dynamic of Shearer and Gullit was just. And people say it was a ego battle and a battle of wills, and maybe it was with Ruud, but I don't think it was with Al at all. And even with the Derby game, and it's a good story about that as well, is that he didn't even pull Al aside to tell him he wasn't playing. He basically, John Carver gave out bibs on the game, so I think the Derby game was on the Wednesday or Tuesday. It was a midweek game, if I can remember, and so the day before in training, he's giving out bibs to the reserves for the day. So you see him giving out bibs. Duncan's getting a bib because he's regaining his fitness, and he gave Alan a bib, and you're thinking, wow. And like knowing me, and like, well, I'm sure we'll get to it, the right wing with Bobby. If I was England captain and the best player the Premier League's ever seen, and I was given a bib, I would have probably thrown the bib in Ruud Gullit's face and walked off and got in my car. He puts on his bib. He's so professional, I swear. This is Alan Shearer. He puts on the bib. You could tell it's kind of, I don't know, is the word embarrassing? There must be a word. What's the word? I think a bit of disrespect. Exactly. I think he's been disrespected, but he puts on the bib, and So we have the first team that was playing against Sunderland and against the reserves. And I think
Shearer's in the reserves.
With Duncan Ferguson, and this is the day before, and he's been disrespected, and we lose to the reserves, something like about 6-0. And Duncan scores 4 and ours scores 2, and you're thinking, oh my God.
And Ruud's like, stick with the team.
Yeah. But honestly, they smashed us, and you're just thinking...
Still better than Sunderland.
And you think we're going into a derby and it's a must-win.
Yeah.
But the whole way Al handled that situation was just, listen, because knowing me that would have been completely different. And again, to counter that as well, because everyone talks about Ruud, it's pretty obvious at the time that Shearer didn't like Ruud, the way he was doing the Rob Lee situation and stuff. So if you're a manager and your job's on the line because it was a must-win game, do you put a player in that doesn't like you? Is he going to fight tooth and nail for you? So I can see where Ruud was coming from, but then to counter that again is that it's a derby, Al's a Geordie. Every time he goes on the pitch, regardless of who's manager, he's going to give 110%. So if Duncan and Shearer would have started the game against Sunderland, we would have won that game, regardless of the weather and the conditions.
So he let his ego get in the way, really, didn't he?
100%. So when I talk about man management, Ruud Gullit was one of the best coaches I ever worked. When he put on a session and his instructions and the way he did it, fantastic. He was up there with one or two of the best coaches I've ever had. But he couldn't get the management right. Again, don't know if it was a great player. There was times with Nikos Dabizas, so he'd want Nikos Dabizas to ping the ball out to a wing up, like about that high, drilled in, and then out to the other side, and Dabizas couldn't physically do it. So Ruud would get out of the way. I want you to do this with both feet. And he couldn't get his head round that. Players couldn't do what he was asked, and you're thinking, well, it's because you were World Player of the Year. So the man management side of it, Ruud just he didn't have down to a T, and obviously it cost him in the end.
And then Bobby Robson was brought in.
Yeah.
And I must admit, having this impression of who you are, when I seen you get the news, I watched it on YouTube at the time it was uploaded, when you were playing for West Ham. I always had this impression of you were the one who shafted Bobby, and really that's how it's painted in Newcastle, especially. He was let down, but Kieron Dyer was the real person who let him down more than anyone. That's what people think. Obviously, reading your book, I'm kind of getting the full picture now.
Of course, yeah.
But when I seen you in tears when Bobby passed away, I thought, fucking hell, I didn't expect that from him.
Yeah.
And that's when I thought, oh, there's a lot more to this. Was it an instant connection between you and Sir Bobby?
There was. Obviously Ipswich, because he was Ipswich, the connection. And I remember when I was an Ipswich Town player, we played Italy in the under-21s, and Bobby Robson had his first season at Barcelona, and he was then Van Gaal comes in, he's given the upstairs role as some director of football scout. So he's come to the game because Buffon and Totti were playing, and it was probably one of the best games I've ever played. We win 1-0, I score the winner, and I upstaged Totti and Buffon.
To be fair, Totti was a hell of a player.
Especially then, he was basically our whole team talks that week was just set up to stop
Totti.
him, basically.
When you see him out on the pitch, what did you see? Because he's quite
Handsome
quite an athlete.
Handsome
he's
bastard.
quite athletic, isn't he?
Yeah,
there's a guy to look at.
Talking of a Totti story, my mate Kenny. So we're in south of France. I take my mate to south of France with me, and we're in south of France, and we're in this beach bar, great day. So it was happening during the day, and we come out in the afternoon, and Totti was there, and he was in Speedos, obviously, all waxed off and that. So my mate's pissed in that, and Totti's waiting by this taxi rank with a few of his friends, and my mate wants a taxi and thinks Totti's the one who gets the taxi. So he's like, "Oi, mate, get me a taxi." And I'm looking at Totti, because obviously footballers know it, you kind of nod to show the respect, and I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing, you prick? You're like, this is the greatest Italian player and you're getting him to flag down the taxi. My mate was oblivious, so we finally get in the taxi.
But a shooter turns up, he's like, what's he wanting?
Yeah. So like we finally get in the taxi. I'm like, sorry for that. And we get in the taxi and my mate's like, and he went, was that Totty? I'm like, yeah, you fucking dick. You've just been telling to get you a taxi. So yeah,
credit to him, he did flag down a taxi in the end. Yeah, he did very well. Yeah.
So yeah, the Totty, yeah.
You upstaged Totty. That must feel good looking back on
and
it.
Buffon though.
I scored against Buffon.
Even bigger, yeah.
Yeah. So in the tunnel after the game, Bobby's there, and so obviously I'd seen him at Ipswich, but I never had a conversation. He comes up to me and he's asking about Ipswich, and he always used to talk about it. He lives on Constitution Hill. He used to have a house in Constitution Hill, which I live there now, which is quite ironic as well. So
kindred spirits.
So yeah, and he was saying, look, the way you're going, I'll get you to Barcelona one day. So for a 17, 18-year-old kid to hear that was fantastic. And then obviously becomes Newcastle manager, and we do have, it was like a father-son relationship. And people from the outside, if you looked at it, the way we had disagreements in front of other players and that, people could see that was a disrespect and that, but that was just the relationship we had. Like I could shout at him like, leave me alone, and da-da-da, and people were like, what the hell? But it was never personal. It was just the kind of father-son kind of relationship we had. And
I love that story I read in the book about I think it was the Basidas one. Where basically, I think you challenged some tactics of the coach or something. Can you?
There was a couple of great stories. So when I'm talking about Bobby as the best, and I was talking about man management, and when I say I don't use a lot of the things when I was younger as excuses. So basically, we played Bradford in one of Bobby's first season. We're winning 1-0 at half time, but it was a crap performance. The crowd are getting on us. And Christian Pasidis, he struggled when he was a Newcastle player. And the fans were getting on his back in particular. So we come in at half time, and Mick Wadsworth was the gaffer's assistant at the time, and he's fucking absolutely hammering Christian Pasidis, fucking slaughtering him. And Al was crap that game, and Speedo was crap that game. All the senior players was just as bad. Mm-hmm. And he's launching into Pasidis. So that's where the vulnerability, picking on the young kind of thing. So I'm like looking around waiting for someone to say something, and I'm like, basically, I say to Christian, to Mick, you're a prick, like leave the kid alone, he's struggling, having a hard time, you only pick on him, you don't say anything to fucking Al and that, you fucking shit house, like proper going into it, like I've lost it now. And he's like, how dare you show me some respect? And I say, like, show you respect. You show him some respect. Like, you always pick on the young lads. You always pick on Loire. You always pick on Shola. Grow some fucking balls and fucking pick on some of the senior players. Anyway, it's going back and forth. He's going mad. Then Bobby's gone, shut your mouth to me. How dare you and like, Bobby went. So now...
It's hard for us to imagine Bobby going on like that, because he's always the professional.
No, he went, how dare you talk to my staff like that? Show some respect, da-da-da. So now I've started crying, where more out of anger and frustration because he's picking on young. So I'm like a little spoiled little brat now. I'm not playing no more. I want to go home, baby. I want to go home and see my mummy and all that. So I've literally took off my top, my boots, my shorts, said I'm not playing, and I've gone to go and get a shower. So Gary Speed, because Al was our captain, but Gary Speed was our real captain. And the way I mean that is that for us younger players, Al was more of a captain because of what he does on the football pitch, the leader. But off the pitch, it's not like he was a captain checking it, but Gary Speed would. So you had cliques, you had the Brat Pack, you had the older lads, you had the foreigners.
Was Gary more approachable than Alan?
Yes.
Because when we interviewed Alan, one of the fans of the show, who happens to be a celebrity, Robbie Williams, messaged me and said he'd make a very good gangster.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Alan does come across, he is a bit... I mean,
That's
I don't get
libelous.
intimidated
We're
by
not
many
really
people, but I can sort of understand how someone would get intimidated by Alan, especially if you're playing in a team and you're looking up to him. Whereas, was Gary more of a people person?
Yeah, of course. Gary, you could fit Gary in any one of them cliques, and he'd be the life and soul of the group. So he could come with the Brat Pack for a night out, perfect. He could go with the senior players, he could go with the foreigners, he can go. So it didn't surprise me when this argument's kicked off and I've gone to shout, Speedo's coming in and said, look, get your boots on, da-da-da-da. And I was like, no, I'm still sniffling away. And then the gaffer comes in and says to Gary, get out. So I'm thinking, here we go. But because of that defense, that stubbornness, I'm thinking, I am not backing down if he start. And he goes, softly spoke, and he went, love what you did, son. I'm thinking. So straight away, my anger starts to ebb, and he went, you are totally right. I absolutely love that you protect the young players. It shows a real leader in you and that. But I can't be seen to be disrespecting Mick Wadsworth because he's my staff. So I've got to show that he's got power over you. But I totally understand. So now I'm feeling $1 million. Bobby understands. And then he's like, you've been the best player in this. Even though I hadn't, or wasn't, he was like, you were brilliant first half. You were the best player. We need you. You're going to win the game. Come on, get your boots back on. Obviously, put my shirt boots back on. I end up scoring the winner. And I was just going to show, like, when you talk about man manager, Mick Wadsworth feels $1 million because the manager's backed his... and I feel $1 million that, bloody hell, the gaffer knew what I was doing, and the gaffer stopped the one-man revolt just like that. And there's so many cases like it. It's absolutely genius. And... like I said, when people talk tactics and that, just being able to get players to get 100, play to 200% of them above and beyond, and that's what he did. Because if you look at our team, and I say the best way to look at Bobby as a manager, and it's no disrespect to the players I'm going to mention, before we signed Jonathan Woodgate, we were in the Champions League or always up there. We had a back four of Aaron Hughes or Griffin who could play right back.
Our defence was shit. I'll say it for you, mate. It was fucking shit.
We had Obi, Titus and Davies as the centre, and we had Olivier Bernard, and we were coming third and fourth.
Unbelievable.
Olivier's a good little player.
Yeah, of course, but I'm just saying, when you think of a back four like that, you're thinking, how...
No, that's relegation back four. If we'd had a good defence, we would have won the fucking league.
If you'd have had Lascelles back then, mate, you would have been...
So, you mentioned it before, actually, now that we're on the subject of Gary Speed. It was really nice to hear you speak about him like that, because obviously you just see the man on the pitch, you don't realise how much goes on behind the scenes and how much he did for people. What was it like for you when you got the news he passed away in such a tragic circumstance?
Well, when we talk about Gary Speed as a player first, the season he goes, and then we get, I think it was the season we get Nicky Butt, James Milner, Clivert. Things started to go downwards, in a downward spiral when he went, and then obviously Craig goes later on that season. That just goes to show what he did for that change room and everything, and as a player and as a leader. I think that was the beginning of the demise.
So like the glue of that room.
Yeah. So when he went, it was like the beginning of the demise. So when I obviously found the news, and it didn't really hit me, but I was so worried because I'm closest to Craig Bellamy, and Craig Bellamy, it was like Craig Bellamy's second dad. Like I said, I've got the relationship with Bobby. That was how Craig was with
two Welsh boys as well,
and Craig looked up to him absolutely. So I was dreading the phone call. I obviously thought that Craig might have known, and when Craig always has, I think Craig was playing on Sky that day, and I never ring Craig because Craig is so, for all everyone says about him, he's one of the most professional people you'll ever think, so he very rarely takes calls. So I rang him about 3 or 4 times, he didn't pick up. Then he rings me, and I think he was on the bus or on the way to the game, and I said, have you heard the news about Speedo? And he was like, what? And I said, he's committed suicide. And like, Craig goes straight into no, you know how rumours are, Kieron, look how many da-da-da-da, and he goes into denial, and he was like, look, I'm going to ring, because they've had the same PR woman, Susie, and he's like, I need to ring her. So yeah, that was a tough phone call, and it was tough to think. But I'm not going to lie, and people might slaughter me for this, but it got to the stage that so a week or so after his death, I think, or maybe a couple of weeks after, I think it was only a week after his death, so I was obviously hurt. And Craig was playing for Man City, and they had Liverpool in the League Cup semi-final. And so I went to Anfield to see Craig, and he got Gary Speed's two sons. He invited Gary's dad and Gary's two Speeds into the box. And to see their strength and these two boys were, honestly, you would never, the strength. Well, one was really quiet, but there was I think his son was called Ed, and he was just like, how strong and how he was, it made me angry at Gary Speed. Like, and it's tough, like, because I'm not in his head, but I was thinking, how could you leave these two boys? And I was pissed off with him. So I'd gone from extremely hurt to so angry with him, and it was just because I see his two boys, and yeah, that was tough. But
you were thinking of it from a logical standpoint, weren't you? And I think
so, because what's happened to me, people have taken their lives, and I get that. But when there's kids involved, you know, I think, how do you do that? And so that's what made me, and seeing their bravery and strength, so I had for about 3 weeks, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, how could you do that? But obviously, as time goes, and listen, you don't know what goes in people's heads. And
depression, it literally is.
Exactly, it's that.
It makes the way I look at depression. It's like, I remember when I was a kid, I had an illness where my blood cells were performing the way they shouldn't do, and I guess for depression it makes your brain think things it shouldn't think, and like people would be better off without us and all of this, and it's very sad. It is, because it makes people it is a disease. Do you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
I remember seeing his sons on the pitch with Alan, like, and like it fucking filled us with emotion and so much respect for them as young men. Like,
of course, yeah. That I couldn't. It's just so hard to explain how like, I'm just thinking, their dad died
and you said yourself what a great man. Yeah, like he was as well.
It's just
does everything for everyone. Not the type of bloke who would ever want to leave his sons without a dad. Clearly not.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? But this is
everything he's done. Like, even everyone talks about Wales and what they did. He laid the groundwork. He's done. That's just the man he was. He just, and again, which pains me. And listen, and he had a bit of a tough going with the crowd at sometimes at St James's Park.
Yeah, who didn't?
I know, but you're just thinking, how can Gary Speed, like, because when you talk about leaving every inch of yourself on the pitch every single time, what a fella he was.
How did you feel being a player who played alongside him? Because it seems that you don't perceive yourself to be in that sort of same style of player as he was, or Alan was, or that sort of stoic British man who sort of, you know, just goes about
the old fashioned
football player. How did you see yourself compared to them?
What do you mean, playing with him? What do you mean? Sorry.
When you were alongside them, what kind of player would you describe yourself as? Because he was obviously a really took his business very seriously. Wasn't the flair player or the young promising talent that maybe you were.
I had most of my success at Newcastle because of him, because he gave me the license to just go and do what I wanted, and he'd basically
take responsibility.
Yeah.
And can you remember that time when we played Liverpool? It was an away game, and we go into each other's face and have a little bit of a pushing match, and there's me pushing Speedo back thinking he's gonna kill me in the change room. Honestly, after that, all I'm thinking for the last 20 minutes of the game is, how am I going to get out of this? Because he will rip my head off.
Headbutt you, that's for sure, because he had a bullet head on.
So, again, talking about the man and that. So, again, he's a senior pro, and even though our frustration going, he did push me first, but I was telling him to fuck off, you prick, and that disrespected him. And I'm worried for my well-being and what's going to happen when we get into the change room. And after the game, he comes straight up to me and goes, I started it, I'm sorry. And thinking, like, the guy was just this is a senior pro who's like, and you got a little 20, 21, 22-year-old disrespect you in a way, even if, and he was the first one to apologise and everything. You think, fucking, what a man.
Mm-hmm. One thing when you talk about him as a player, it's funny because you were like, everyone talks now about Scholes, Lampard, Gerrard and that, and I suppose Scholes was he was very much his own player. Nobody was ever quite like Scholes, but Gerrard and Lampard were compared a lot. But I remember back in the day, they were in your shadow as the young players. You were the one that everyone had picked for greatness. You were a fucking great player in the Champions League and you were really good for Newcastle, but why do you think you never went down the way Lampard and Gerrard have?
It's good because in the forward for my book, I got Pete Taylor to do the forward of my book, and he says he's going about it and he says it's easy to play the what if game, and he's saying that I should have played for a Barcelona and I should be mentioned in the same breath as them. And when I was on the pitch, again, it gets labelled a lot. When I get on the pitch, sometimes I get labelled he doesn't care and that. And I can now say that, I say it in the book, everyone looks at James Milner as the epitome of hard work, dedication, Every time I played for any club, I had the most running in a game, I had the most high intensity in the game, or I was in the top 3 every single time I was on the pitch. Does that show someone who doesn't care, if you know what I mean? And when you're talking about these players, what happened to me is so when I was on the pitch, I gave 100%, but the lead up to a match or training, I cut corners. If we for instance, if we had a Saturday game, no midweek game and a Saturday game, my night would be Saturday night we're out, Sunday night we go to Jule's, Monday would be in the Gate into Tiger, Tuesday would be another student night. So when you're thinking of top athletes, to go to the next stage, it might be just 0.5%, it might be 0.6%. When you're out Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, again, people may say, oh yes you did, no I didn't. So if there was a club rule in place where you weren't allowed out 48 hours before a game, we never broke that. Right. For how British or whatever there was some rules we abided to, but still, if you're out for, and I'm not talking going out and not drinking, we're doing 10 Zambucas and that. So did I fulfill my potential? No. And that's, I think, because I got it all horribly wrong off the pitch with my dedication and my professionalism. And it pains me that when I went to West Ham and I was mature and I was the first one into training, the last one to leave to training, very rarely had a drink, did everything right, following the Gary speech, I couldn't stay fit. And you just think, is it karma for what you did in Newcastle?
Is that part of the title of the book?
Yeah, of course.
What's the title again?
Old too soon, smart too late.
Yeah, I like that.
I do as well. It's just because I love my boxing, and there was a quote that Mike Tyson used, and then he also says everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And I used that about when I break my leg at West Ham, that this is the prime of my career and I'm ready to kick on and live my life like a proper pro, and I never got the chance because of all the injuries after that. One
of the things that you said in the book was like when you talk about your nightlife and all that, and I mean the stories about you, I want you to clear this one up for me, because I've heard this in so many different variations.
I think I know what it is, because I've heard
a pound note.
Yeah.
You had a £20 note or £50 note. He's either making it rain, he's lighting it on fire. What the fuck did you do?
It is complete, and I've heard this story about me burning £50 notes. At first, it was I was burning £50 notes in Ipswich, and then I was burning £50 notes in Newcastle. And the funny thing about it is that the amount of people who said they've witnessed this this nightclub must be bigger than St James's Park. I'm telling you, because
Not every taxi driver in Newcastle has this story.
It's also illegal. You're not allowed to burn the Queen's face.
I'm telling you now, and I think you know from my book how honest I'm being here. If I did, I'd admit it. I'd own up.
You've owned the worst.
I have never ever burnt money ever in my life. And the funny thing is, like, when this goes out and you'll read the comments, I bet there'll be someone saying, "Yes, he did. I was there.
Bar Beach Club.
It's complete.
Great night.
They are liars.
Tiger.
And there's and not too long ago, I was in a because I don't drink now, and I was in a bar, and this woman comes up to me and she was like, "Oh, you seem to really mature, because I was there the night in the club was called Hollywood's, and then late got you, and I was there that night when you burnt money." And I went, "You liar! Why are you lying? I've never." And she was like, "Oh, I weren't there, but I was in the club that it's never happened." And you just think, where does it? Well, I think I do know where it come from, because I heard this story when I was a youth team player. It was being talked around at Ipswich, and it was an established Premier League player. And then I go and tell my mates, we were in a bar, and I was like, "Oh, you've got to hear this story." And the story was that this player was trying to get into a nightclub, and the bouncer said, "You ain't getting in here just because you're a footballer. I don't think I can't do what you bloody blah." And this player gets out money, burns the money, and says, "I bet you can't do this." Something along them lines. Right. And the only way I think this has happened is that it's like the Chinese whisper. Someone tells the story to someone else, and by the time it gets and then it ends up me being the player. And the thing is, at the time when I told this story, I was a youth player on like £47.50 a week. And by the time this rumour was coming out in Ipswich, I'm thinking, well, how do I even live with burning my wages? Yeah, burning my wages.
Another thing that was said about you, just generally on nights out, is the way you'd speak to people.
That's
do you think that's fair?
That's true. So,
because I know lads who owned bars back in the day who said,
true. So
be like,
I've never burnt money, but there'll be times where I've had a poor game, a fan come up to me, be having a go, "You prick, fucking go home," and I'm like, "Mate, leave me alone. I'm with my mates having a thing." And he's like, "Don't you tell me, I pay your wages." And I'll go, "Fuck me, I didn't know your season ticket cost £3 million or along that, just a dick," but in retaliation. So yeah, there's been times where a fan will sing and I'd give it large to.
What if because you're painting yourself in a good light there, and that's fair, but have you ever just went in and acted like you owned the place just because, you know how you said that your ego was taken over at one point?
Yeah, I think I touched on the Iron Apple.
Tell us about Iron Apple.
So you just ask just one question. You know you didn't burn money. Have you ever made it rain?
No, never.
Right. Okay, it's a shame really, because I was kind of hoping you had.
No, even though like
we'll do it later.
Right, sure.
YouTube plays pretty
funny because one of my heroes now, and it's more for what he does in the ring, is Floyd Mayweather, and you think about Floyd Mayweather,
sleeps on money,
makes it rain and everything.
Yeah.
No, I've never done that, but like you said, I have cashed people off before. And when you say you bowl around like you own the place, I think I touched on it in Iron Apple. It was like
that sounded fucking mental.
That was the height of it. It was like you think you're above the law. Well, the way people treat you, like the adulation, it gives you a sense of entitlement. People are in their best clothes. We're coming sweaty with BO and sand all over the place, straight from the beach. 15 of us being allowed into a bar. Me and Woody having a beer fight, and like things, people get splattered with beer, and we're not caring in the world. And you just look at it now and you just think, what the fuck will we be thinking? But, and I touch on it because people say, because I think it's British men in general on holidays when they go abroad, but because we were professional footballers, I think we were even worse, if you know what I mean. So British men going on these holidays and expect certain things and whatever, but we just took it to and again, when we went to Baja, there was a kind of thing that we run the gaff kind of thing, without the burn of money and stuff, but you know that, look at us, we're playing in the Champions League, and
Yeah, I probably would have been worse, to be fair to you. That was one thing I've actually never been that annoyed at you for, is enjoying being young and fucking rich. I don't think you should be grudge at a lad. And you didn't have social media then, so you could get away with a bit more as well. Sure. Now you would have been fucked.
Yeah, it would have been kind.
To be fair, you did get the old camcorder out at one point anyway. That wasn't you.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
Lamps and Rio, and you touch on that. What was it like when you realised that shit was going down? Did that, because it seemed to freak you out a bit in the book, where you're like, fuck me, like, because then the newspapers coming out saying player in gang rape and all of that, and it's...
Yeah, so when I come home, again, when you're talking about entitlement and the way you are, so I came home from Ayia Napa on, like, I landed Thursday morning, met my friends in a bar on an all-day of Thursday afternoon, and one of my friends get into a scuffle. Look at me, 7 stone wet through, can't throw a punch. There's me in the front. What the fuck you doing? Gets smashed in my eye gets split open. So I go to hospital and my eye's in a pretty bad way. I have to have an eye test in the morning and everything. So when I'm at the hospital, my mum rings me and says, the press are outside. So I'm thinking, how the fuck have the press got hold of this that quick? So anyway, I've snuck in round the back, and they were there all day until like Saturday night, kept knocking on the door, can we get a quote? So I'm like, no. So then my mum goes and gets a paper on the Sunday, because I'm thinking it's going to be about a fight, and you thinking it's like England stars in video sex tape, and and my mum comes in, throws the paper at me, you're an embarrassment, and I'm like shocked, because I'm thinking, how the hell have they got this camera? And then as the story come on, and because there were so many hangers on a holiday, they knew about this camera, and someone's stolen the camera, sold it to the press. And my whole thing was that the way the papers and the press put it out there was that these women, they made it that all these incidents happened in one night, which weren't, because the holiday was a week and there was footage from all over the place. And they said that these girls and they were secretly filmed, and it was complete nonsense. With my case, I was with a girl and someone gets the hotel key for a thing, and they come in from behind, and as soon as we sense that there's someone in the room, I jump off the girl and basically get out of the room, made sure the girl was okay, got her a taxi. So I didn't secretly film her like it was being portrayed, and I think the same with the other boys. So again, that was tough, that you're labelled as, listen, what we were doing in Ayia Napa, like I said, we thought we were above the law and blah. Well, I thought I was above the law and blah de blah, but there's certain things that I wouldn't do, and that was one, and I was getting harshly criticised for that.
Yeah, because you're allowed to have sex with people. I mean, it's not illegal.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I mean, you are technically allowed to do it on camera,
But for them to say that we secretly filmed, it was bullshit.
What was it like having all the lasses after you, and that must have been fun, mate?
I loved it at the time.
I like how many chapters are named after women in the book. The girl. You milked it for all it was worth, did you?
So to speak.
Yeah,
why not?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and again, when I was in Ipswich, and you're in the Championship, and you get a level of fame, you think, oh yeah. But then when going to Newcastle, and the way I started, like, for how bad the team was struggling, I started off like a house on fire. I was just ripping it up that first few months
on the pitch.
Yeah, and then obviously getting introduced by Warren to the quayside, I couldn't believe what it was, just like being in one of these holiday resorts every day. It's just wow.
Is Newcastle, so, because the way that I understand it, I've been to Newcastle a couple of times now and spoken to you about it, it's quite a bubble. It's a bit like Liverpool in that sense, that you are the man around town because you play for the biggest team in what they believe is the greatest city in the world. You know, there's all these clubs, everyone's going out having a good time. Do you think that plays into it somewhat?
Well, massively, and one of the big things about Newcastle, and he again, I'm saying he got a lot of stick from the fans, and people saying that just because they thought he wanted to leave, but it weren't. JJ, when he said it was, he had to leave. It was like living in a goldfish bowl, and he couldn't cope with it.
Was that
Jermaine Genius, yeah. And the fans were like, yeah, but honestly, he couldn't deal with it, and the amount of rumours, like you said, the £50 note. But I touch on the rumour. There's a story in the book about the gangster. Have you read the gangster? You probably would know the gang. I'm not going to say the gangster family's name, but basically
in Newcastle.
Yeah, we're talking about rumours. So it was probably in my first season at Newcastle, and it was Big Al. He pulls me aside and says, "My dad pulled me the other day, and apparently you've got some gangster girl, some gangster's daughter pregnant." So I'm thinking, what? So listen, how bad I was or whatever, I could account for every girl I'd slept with, regards I'd get.
Is your dad a gangster?
Yeah.
Right, we're good to go.
Yeah.
Okay,
so basically, so I kind of dismissed it. Yeah, whatever. It's just Newcastle. So later on, or a couple of days later, I have Freddie Shepherd ringing me, and he's like, "Kieron, have you heard the rumour about the gangster?" And he was telling me about this. They blow people's kneecaps off and da-da-da-da.
Freddie Shepherd was telling me this.
Telling me the story, saying,
"Calm me down." Yeah, I just wanted to let you know they blow people's kneecaps off. Okay, say what?
It gets worse. It gets worse.
Oh,
so I'm like, whoa. So I'm still like 100% it's bullshit. Because I know who I've slept with around these time periods or whatever. And then later on that day, the police from Newcastle, the police ring me up talking about giving me 24-hour surveillance. This is how a rumour can escalate. So I'm like, what the fuck is that? Now I'm literally like...
You must have been worried about it. I mean, you hear
24-hour surveillance outside your place.
How am I supposed to get women in and out now?
So fucking... I'm
Just
like,
use a police officer.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, this is serious now. So I make a few phone calls. There was Big Pugger. Have you ever come across Big Pugger? He used to own the Blackpool pub across the road.
You can't say you do, but...
And Lawrence was a driver that we all used, and they knew some people. So I was like, listen, can you make some inquiries and that? So again, about a couple of hours later, my phone rings. It's a withheld number, and I never ring withheld numbers, but because of what's going on, it could be some. So I pick up and I go, hello. And then it was the gangster, and he was like, hello, this is bloody blah. And you know when like a horror film, when the camera zooms into the face, it just felt like that, and I'm just like frozen, and he's like
the Wolf of Wall Street at this point.
I'm imagining, by the way, all the policemen in the background with the tapping phone thing going, we can't get them. Keep them on the phone.
And he's just like, I've heard the rumours, my daughter has never even seen you, she doesn't even know you or anything. And I'm like, phew. And then what will always stick with me as well is he said like, trust me, if you ever need anything sorted out or anyone disappearing, just find me and give me a call and I'll sort it out for you. So I've always thought, okay, that's fair enough. It's quality.
Wow.
And then again, touching on that, a couple of weeks later, I'm in a bar and I keep getting tapped on the shoulder, and I turn around and some bird, and I don't want to give her any attention. I'm thinking, fuck. She kept tapping me, so now I'm just about to go like do one.
Yeah.
So I turn around and she goes like that. Like to say, and I'm like, 2 bottles of champagne, here you go. Like,
I've never been so happy.
So, yeah, so,
that's great.
So that's just like, and there's so many rumours what go around, but that's part and parcel of living in Newcastle.
Because what you were saying was, and I
took you in Newcastle recently for the first time.
We had a great little tour. But also what you were saying was, and I think this happens in certain cities or within certain communities, is when someone gets success, sometimes people want to bring you down, especially when they feel like the ones who have brought you up.
Yeah, even I've had that.
And in Newcastle, to me, the stories that you always hear from some of those players, it doesn't happen at every club because you don't get that. It happens in certain clubs in London, maybe it happens sometimes at Liverpool, everything, but it definitely happens in Newcastle. You've had it yourself with other people.
Last week,
on
someone
YouTube.
tweeted me saying, "You used to support Man United when you were at school." I'm like, literally, I've got pictures of me and Alan Shearer as a fucking hater.
To be fair, Alan almost went to Manchester.
Yeah,
We both
I
did.
would have.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have.
We've set the record straight for that guy now. moron. But the point is, it's a city where when you get a bit of success, people can often want to see you fall as well.
The football team is all we have in Newcastle, really.
But it goes against the interest of the team.
To be fair to Newcastle, I don't think it's a city thing. I think it's.
I'm not saying it's everyone.
I think it's the country in general.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, our mindset, our mentality is that when people are doing well, there's that hinge of jealousy, or we have to knock them down. While in other countries, in America, they can drive a freight and people are like, woo, high five, Lord, what a car in that. If someone drives a Bugatti down in Newcastle, what a prick. It's just that whole mentality. And so I wouldn't label that directly at Newcastle.
How did jealousy affect you? Because obviously you had so much, and some of those around you don't have that, or the regular people on the street don't have that. Did it? Because jealousy, for me, it makes me feel a bit down.
Really?
Because I'm like, do you know how much I've had to fucking struggle to get anything in my life? Why would you want to fucking take that away from me? If you knew what I've fucking been through, you'd be fucking celebrating for us.
Even with the rumours with the money and that used to fucking piss me off really bad. And certain things, the jelly, like you said, stories used to get me down. But then it got to the stage where if I knew my family knew the truth and the best people, my friends knew me around the thing, everything else was irrelevant. And that's the kind of mindset I did to get rid of that, because otherwise it would just eat and consume you, like you
can't
said.
worry
And
about
it did,
everyone.
exactly. You cannot. So as long as they knew, and the people around me, that kind of put me in good stead. But like you said, at first it did consume me, even like with the captain's armband and the right wing. Can we talk about that now? Of course,
yeah, because I think that was one of the worst things for your public image, particularly in Newcastle. Bobby, for all we made the fucking big mistake of letting him go in the end, will always be known as the grandfather of. He's like the grandfather of Newcastle, and now when people look at him, they feel like the people who betrayed him, particularly, are you for refusing to play for him, and that's like a cardinal sin as a footballer. What do you think when you look back at that situation now?
Yeah, I think that I take it upon myself that I was the main reason why he lost his job. I think I've put some context to it, but that still doesn't make it right. And also because, again, he tried to protect me by keeping me out of the Aston Villa, the game that we needed to win to keep his job. I begged him to play, and because the fans were on my case, he wanted to protect me by keeping me out of the firing line. And I feel that I could have helped win that game. So that whole I even though I put context to it, I feel that I let him down more.
It did make more sense when I read the book, because I got the full story and that, and I was like, all right, well, that does.
It doesn't make it right though.
It makes it more understandable, but it's not right.
So there's more. There's another thing I touch on it as well. I had a big bee in my bonnet about I play my best football in the centre. So when I play for Newcastle, I played a lot of positions. So as a player, it's never your fault. Mm-hmm. So when I played on the right or the left and I didn't have a good game and the fans were getting on my back, straight away, as a defence mechanism myself, it's because I hate playing that position. I should be playing centrally. Make yourself feel better, that old shit. And so straight away, when I always used to play wide, I'm always going on the pitch negative, thinking, well, I can play best in the centre. If I give the ball, it's because I'm not playing centre. So, you keep convincing yourself. So you've got to convince. So then when the fans are on your case a bit, it's because I'm not playing centre field. And I could have easily... Listen, I was a great right winger it was just the mindset, me going onto the pitch. So we had the pre-season, and the whole pre-season I was playing centre midfield, and I was playing very well. And we had this... Cup Rangers, and I think it was one of the Portuguese teams were in this tournament we had at St James's Park, and we play Rangers, and I'm playing centre midfield. And that season we just bought Patrick Kluivert, Nicky Butt, Stephen Carr, James Milner. So we'd obviously finished fifth. We bought some good players to kick on. We've obviously lost Gary Speed. So I'm playing really well, and it was at Rangers at half time, and Lauren Robert's signalling that he has to come off. So Bobby said to Craig, "You go on the left." So Craig straight away is literally in tears, pleading, "I know what's going to happen. The fans think it's the dream team. Shearer, Cliver up front, think it's the dream team. I've been unbelievable for you. Please don't do this to me. Please," like pleading. It's not like Craig usually where fuck off and fuck. He's like pleading, "Please, I've done unbelievable for this club. Pleading. I can see it already. I'm not a left winger. Please." So anyway, and the gaffer's like, "Son, I know you're a friend," and he's pleading, "Oh no, I know what you lot are all going to do. The fans are demanding Shearer, Cliver, da-da-da-da-da." So this is going on and on and on. And then the buzzer's getting pressed for half time by the referee. And it's still, Bellas is nearly crying, like, "I'm a strike." So anyway, thinking, fuck it, it's only free. I said to Gaffer, "Look, you got Nicky Butt on the bench. Why don't you bring on Nicky Butt and I'll go and play on the left." Problem solved. So Gaffer's like, "Yeah, good idea." So we go out for the second half. I play left wing. We end up battering 4. We score. I think I scored the last goal as well. So we come in afterwards, and I think there's going to be some. What just happened? And the gaffer or JC's like, "See ya Monday." Mm-hmm. So I'm like, "Oh, okay, fair enough. Listen, Craig's my best mate. I don't want a scene of thing, but I thought there'd be something. What's going on?"
Yeah.
So then on the Friday before we played Middlesbrough, the team's getting handed out bibs, and
bloody the dreaded bibs
these
again.
Bibs. Everyone's going around
These
going,
fucking bibs.
"Don't hand me the bibs."
but this time the first team are getting
You want the bibs.
first team are given the bibs,
Alan's going,
and I've got the. This was on the Thursday, and I get the bib, and Woody comes up to me, Jonathan Woodgate, and goes, "Looks like you're playing right wing," and I'm like, "Piss off!" I've like played the whole set midfield and that.
yeah.
And it was true, I was playing right wing. So straight away, my negative thoughts about playing right wing, and then I've got to be in my bonnet of the Craig situation. Well, Craig says he doesn't want to play left, even though he didn't flat out refuse, but he's pleading, "Please don't play me. I'm the Good Samaritan. Now I'm getting punished for being a Good Samaritan." So all these things are racing in my head. So anyway, training go, I sulk through the whole of the training. I don't even go in and have a shower. I've spat my dummy out massively now. Go home in my training kit, get my gear, drive home. So I ring the gaffer that night. He doesn't pick up. I leave an answering machine saying, "Gaffer, it's Kieron. My head's gone. I don't want to play on the right. Other players tell you they don't want to play there. It's fine." I said, "If you don't think I'm good enough to play in centre midfield, hopefully I'll prove my worth and I'll force my way in. You've just bought James Milner. He's a right winger." Didn't hear nothing from the gaffer. So the next day, gaffer pulls me aside, and that's when they get the pictures. So he pulls me outside onto his patio, and I wouldn't say it was an argument. You could tell I'm cross in my face, but the gaffer's like, "I got your message, son, but you'll be all right." And I was like, "Gaffer, my head's gone." And he was like, "Well, you need to get your head right." I'm telling you, if I play right wing on Saturday, my head is completely gone. So there's a grey lining, but listen, I'm not going to say no. I basically said I didn't want to play. So the Middlesbrough game comes, and he's picked James Milner to start, and I felt a bit of relief. I'm not playing, but I felt a bit of relief about it, which is strange in a while. But
that's weird for me, yeah, because I'd rather play right wing than
exactly.
Than
but
not
it was just my mindset of I had this bee in my bonnet of that. If I'm going to get stick, if I'm playing centre midfield and I get stick, I can accept that. But I don't know. It's just the way I talk myself in all these years is that I'm not playing in my best. I use that as an excuse and so anyway, the game comes on and we're doing well. And JJ that day Jermaine Genius was on fire. I'm thinking I ain't getting back in this team because we played really well that day. And then there was about 60 minutes and Bobby's called me on and he's coming on. And where am I coming on? Right wing. So I'm fuming again that. So James Milner come off, I come on right wing. I think, oh, I'm on the pitch. I always do a job for the team. And there's about 5 minutes to go. I think Al's scored a penalty to make us 2-1. And Al's coming off the pitch. And now I'm assistant manager. I'm assistant captain. So again, so I'm trying to concentrate on football. So all these things are racing in my head. I've refused. I'm playing right wing. I'm fuming about that. Now Al's coming off to give me the armband. So I'm thinking I've got a decision to make here. If this ever comes out, I know how the Geordies are, especially with their armband. The armband and number 9 is treasured things. I've been there a number of years. I know. So I'm thinking, if this story eventually comes out, and I've put the cap down after disrespecting their football club, I'm fucked. But if I don't put the armband on, will people think, why didn't he put the armband on? So this is all racing through my head. What the hell do I do? What the hell do I do?
He's running towards you.
So he's walking to me. He's pissed off. He's coming off for Patrick Kluivert. You know how he wants goals. So as he's walking towards me, the way I try to convince myself is that if I hand the armband to someone else, because I was sub, people might think us because he was a sub. This is what I'm trying to think, because this is a game going on. All I'm thinking is, how the fuck am I not getting in trouble here? Which is crazy to think. So I've looked around. There's Shay and there's Aaron Hughes, who are the more senior players at Newcastle. So I go up to Aaron and fling the armband at Aaron and said, you put this on. So when people say I disrespected the armband, I wasn't. I was trying to protect myself in a way and not disrespect the Newcastle fans by putting it on. So after the game,
you should have just put the fucking armband on, shouldn't you?
I think you shirked the responsibility in a way there, and sort of should have just put it on and realised in the fullness of time you'd be able to explain yourself.
Yeah, I should have. I should have been a man and put the armband on, and if it came out, I should have.
I think it's a shame, really, when I hear that story, because it seems to me like Bobby believed that you could go on to be a real leader, and obviously you're doing that now.
Yeah.
But at the time, you just weren't fucking ready for that.
Exactly. I think even with the Loire and the Christian Pasidis, and he said you're a leader, son. I think he realised the potential that I had, but like you said, I was just not ready.
The fact that you were even deliberating this has shown that you weren't ready for it.
I was just too immature. And again, what pains me is that so I cock up the goal. So we're 2-1 up. Zenden run down the line and I literally slip, and when I mean slip, I literally go head first into the 4. He crosses it, Hasselbank scores the equaliser. So I'm thinking, right, let me get this right. I refuse to play right wing. I've shunned the captain's armband and I've cost us a goal. I know I'm a fuck up, but that is pretty epic for me to fuck up like this. So I'm devoed in the change room with regards to, I'm more devoed for the gaffer. And he goes off and do the press, and when he comes back in, he comes straight to me and he goes, they know. And I said, what do you mean? He says, there is some pictures of us arguing. Someone from the club must have leaked, someone from inside the change room must have leaked that you've said you didn't want to play on the right wing. But he said, I've protected you, I've told him it's complete nonsense. So I'm like, again, everything you need to know about Bobby is that I've let you down, I've let the club down, I've let the fans down, but you're still out there protecting me. Just sums the man up like. So after all that, it's an international break. I then meet up with England. Where's the England playing? Wembley's under reconstruction. First game's at St James's Park. I come on at half time, booed out of the place.
You're playing centre midfield there for a second.
No, on the wing.
Right wing.
On the wing, I know.
You do it for England.
You can't write this stuff.
Who was the manager at that
Sven was thing, yeah.
Fucking Sven, eh?
I think I might have come on the left because I think Sean Wright-Phillips scores his first goal. That I think Sean's on the right.
Right. Sven had it hard enough in the centre midfield then. Anyway, it was, do I play Lampard? Do I play Gerrard? Do I play together? You were the last thing on his mind at that point. He's just going to get on that.
Fucking Sven.
Yeah.
So,
was he as shit as I think he was?
No, he was better, right? I hope he was as good as I think he was.
I thought he was dog shit as England manager.
Really? I
think that to not.
That's Sven.
Did you respect his womanising?
The problem with the only thing I had with Sven was, which even though Kevin Keegan wasn't a success as an England manager, Kevin Keegan went on form. Like, I was bottom of the league for Newcastle, but I was playing well. I was very good in training that day. He picks me in the team. when you turned up with Sven, you knew the starting 11, regardless of who's playing well, who hasn't.
He just went on name, didn't he?
And I think that is another one of the problems with England. Maybe it's a bit different with Gareth. I think he proved that with Rooney, but England teams are picked on, not on form. I think.
Social merit.
I think it was shown with when Jordan Henderson and Jack Wilshere had their injury problems before the last tournament, and everyone was making a case for Mark Noble and Danny Drinkwater. Danny Drinkwater just won the league, was playing the thing. But is Danny Drinkwater as good as Jack Wilshere or Jordan Henderson? I don't think he is. But was he playing better than them? Of course, because he was injured. But they still went, and that's...
You know, you've been talking about Bobby and his charisma and how he'd get you to run through fire for him, basically. Like, I think the best managers all seem to have a little bit about that, like that about them. Mourinho, there's a glint in his eye, there's a bit of charisma.
Arguably from Bobby, he learned quite a lot.
When I watch a Gareth Southgate interview, fuck me, mate. Honestly, he's the least inspirational fucking cunt I've ever seen in my life.
Steve McLaren.
No, genuinely though, like.
But to defend Gareth, a bit like the Gary Speed. So when I talk about fear, so when I play for England, I didn't want to make a mistake, and I think a lot of players have this, and you take the easy option and that. When Gareth was a player, he always used to pull me aside and give me little tips and like saying, Kieron, when I play against you in the Premier League, whether you're playing off the strike or off our and that, you are a nightmare to play against. Your running, your enthusiasm, doing things. I don't see that with England, and I always appreciated that. Like, of all the senior players at England, when you're talking about who the England captain was, he was like, for me, like a Gary Speed. And I get what you're saying with regards to his charisma. It doesn't come.
Have you seen the water interview?
No, I haven't.
When they go, what do you drink when you're playing? He goes, just water.
Yeah, and I totally get that, but it'd surprise you if you got him here and he opened up. For me as a player, he never got me to play how I should have played for England, because again, when we talk about the fear, and again, when I played for England, I was always wide, so I had that negative thing going onto a football pitch. But
I suppose it's like with you, I had a preconception of who you are, and then you watch someone on a pitch and you try and develop an idea of who they are as a person, and it isn't. That's not who they are. So
it's similar with Conte at the moment, isn't it? Because Conte is similar.
Again, I think clubs, I know players but we are so isolated from fans. We are player liaison officers. We cannot mingle with fans. They keep on top of everything, even with the press. And I think that becomes a separation from reality. So we're
I think it's more separated now than ever.
From ever.
It's kind of in their
When
interest,
I was at Ipswich as a kid, a journalist could ring me direct. He could have my mobile. He could text me. But the way football and the way football clubs are run now, players are getting further withdrawn from fans, from media, and it does have that disconnect. I do. You don't get to see the real people, and like I said, just going on the jungle, I thought I was going to be the first voted out. I thought I'd be the most hated.
You don't know Housewives.
And then when you just and just by being yourself, and people are like, oh, he's actually not what we thought. And I don't think you can get away with it, because the clubs have a duty and that's the way they're run. But if I ever went into management, I would try to get my players to be a lot more open and out there with fans and stuff. Definite.
What do you think of Kevin Keegan? Because he's an interesting character, isn't he, in football? Sort of, he's a bit of a figure of fun now in English football, isn't he?
He just everything I thought I knew of him with the interview, and the one when he slumped down in the interview. He wears his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah.
And the best way to sum him up is after that England-Germany game, a bit when you said, one fan says something to me that makes me think me and Newcastle are done. So he's walking down the side of the pitch and fans are giving him pelters, Keegan, you're shit. He just comes into the change room and says, thanks lads, but that's it, I'm quitting. Wow. And you've got the senior players like Tony Adams and that, like, breathe.
Yeah.
He's done that time and time again. That's my one criticism of Keegan. He's a quitter, and that's what we've learned from Fergie and that and other great managers is the ones who can do it for a while at certain places that stand the test of time. And Bobby did it for a while at a lot of places. Like, he wasn't just like a one season wonder by any means. With Keegan, I thought he checked it in far too soon both times at Newcastle.
Do you think that's different characters though? Because actually we only really have an appreciation for one kind of, like, we appreciate that longevity of some people, but we can't appreciate.
I think expect the Ferguson is not going to happen, but to expect him to do, you know, a good few seasons somewhere and build something and then leave something that's in a good stead, like Bobby did so many times. Can
you also respect the other? I guess I also respect the other way around, that it sort of goes, he knows when he's not right for the role anymore, and just sort of goes, I can't do this. Do you know what I mean?
I agree what you say. So I think with the England thing, it was different because it got to the sense that we were struggling like hell, and the fans basically had grown tired of him or wanted to change. So he's like, you know, but like you said with the Newcastle, you were on well, not the second time, but the first time he was on this unbelievable ride. Like, I mean, you think why would you do that?
We were like a couple of seasons away from guaranteeing at least a Premier League trophy. Like, but
really,
I reckon
with Shearer and Ferdinand up front,
that's pretty.
Ginola.
That's a pretty good team. I'll give you that.
Beardsley. Have you heard about the Beardsley thing? Was that apparent to you? What's happened to him?
Yeah. So
had you heard about that before everyone else did as well?
Yeah. So because again,
you want to stand up for the young players, so it's interesting to get your point.
Well, with I can only go on because Peter was part of the Kevin Keegan setup when I made my England debut, and obviously when I was a player at Newcastle, he was always there. And I didn't think he had a horrible bone in his whole body.
Right.
So when I see these stories now, I'm not there, so I'm not accusing anyone of a liar and that. But I always have that, the way the game's going with the kids, and especially parents with bullying and stuff. I always think, is it kids being oversensitive?
It's like when kids these days threaten to report their parents to social services and that, like, because the kids know the powers that they've got.
Or they shout in class, I know my rights, like, and you're like...
So I don't want to...
Now, I remember getting told this by a Newcastle youth player myself, like, who was a good mate of mine, who said the young lads are taking the piss out of Peter Beardsley, like they don't treat him with the respect he deserves. And like, I heard that 10 years ago, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so from an outsider looking in and knowing the guy and being at Ipswich and seeing parents come in and complain about certain things, and my players only played 35 minutes while this player's sick, there's a load of this bullying and pampering crap, and I was thinking, has he just told people a few home truths and they've took it the wrong way? Yeah, so
and let's be honest, Newcastle isn't exactly the fountain of youth right now with talent. I mean, bloody hell.
Well, saying that, you lot lost to Norwich in the last round of the FA Youth Cup, but I went to watch and you had some good players.
If anyone can build a good youth setup, it's right.
Well, no, but that can only happen from that one. I just mean, for the longest time, we haven't produced.
That's what happened at Liverpool. Is he built an incredible youth setup.
Yeah.
Now all those young kids
Liverpool
across Europe. What's your perception of Rafa Benitez? Have you ever come across him in your... I know you haven't played under him, but what's your perception of him as a manager and a Newcastle manager?
I think he's more a Mourinho type manager than a Pep in regards to the exciting football. He's very organised, but he's an exceptional manager. You put most other managers with the Newcastle squad they got this season, and I think it'd be...
Pardew's going down.
If you lights out, wouldn't it?
You'd be well adrift. So... yeah, he's
just
speaking to the Liverpool boys and that he was an amazing manager. I just wish he had some bankroll like Newcastle in the thing, because I think Newcastle could do some, because it attracts players just because of Rafa Benitez as well.
What about getting back to the sort of storyline? All right, so you refused to play for Bobby Robson. Yeah. Bobby Robson, after that, was sacked. What was it like when you heard about that? Were you privy to the knowledge beforehand?
No, I didn't. So I was left out of the team. We then we drew to Norwich. The next game was Tottenham. We played Tottenham and we lost to Tottenham think Jermaine Defoe scores. I was on the bench. Jermaine Genius does his hamstring, so I come on, get absolutely pelted, which was expected. And then the next game was Norwich at home, and I start, and it's like I've never been able to play football. I was so bad, and made that worse, we were playing Norwich as well, so I had 51,000 Geordies boo me, and then I had the extra 2,000 Norwich fans boo me or whatever. So it got to the stage when we were saying it was like a relief me not playing at right wing at Middlesbrough. I was desperate for my board to come up. I was thinking, please end this torture. And just before I came off, the ball came and I tried to whip one round the corner into a strikes fee, and it come off my shin and went into the crowd. And then my board come up and the whole crowd just erupted.
Wow. God, that must feel fucking pretty intense.
So it was a night game and we drew 2-2. Craig scores 2 goals that game. And then I've sat in the bath. So we usually night game, you're home by 10:30. I sat in the bath until midnight, just me, and Paul Ferris and Big Derek Wright were still there, and they come in and offer me a beer and that, and I was just thinking, I don't know how I'm ever gonna redeem this. And like, I was frustrated because even though I didn't want to make excuses, I thought that if I told them my story with regards to why I felt that way, it would soften the blow. But I thought if I did that, then I'm digging Craig Bellamy, and there's no way I would want that. So I thought I just had to take all the flack. So after that Norwich game, the press were having a field day. Bobby's got one more game, and it was against Aston Villa, and I was in the squad and I travelled down, and JJ was fit that day, and he comes into my room the night of the game and says, I'm going to leave you out altogether. But my argument was that the 2 games I've played since refusing were both at home. There's 52,000 people. I don't care how mentally strong you are. If you've got 52 people, you're not going to play to your best abilities. I said, the away fans are always exceptional. Please let me do this for you. I literally begged him, please Gaffer, I owe you this. I swear to God, I will get you the win if I have to be a one-man bandit, seriously. And he was like, no son, I'm protecting you, I'm just leaving you out of the firing line. And that was the day he left our as well. So I'm in the stand watching it, and we played so well that day. I think we take the lead and we end up losing 4-2, and you're thinking, how do you lose? But I'm upstairs and I'm nearly in tears because I know that's the end, and I weren't there to help. And I thought that day I could have helped because for some reason I always played well at Villa Park as well. There's a couple of grounds where you just think White Hart Lane and Villa Park were my 2. So the writing was on the wall, and then the news came out, and then he comes into the training ground to tell people. And I've got a thing with eye contact anyway from what happened when I was a kid with the sexual abuse. But when I talk about not looking someone in the eye, like, 1, because I would have broke down, and 2, just because what a dick for letting him down. So he was trying to reassure me it's not my fault, and the vultures have been out for a while. But yeah, that was a tough day, real tough day.
And you felt guilty about that?
Yeah, like I said, I still to this day, even though I've put some context, I feel that if I played against Middlesbrough on the right wing with my head right, we wouldn't have had the bad start. I'm not saying I'm a world class player, but James Milner on my day, yeah, and that was the beginning of obviously coming 5th the season before, the vultures were starting to settle, but
it's mental now.
Yeah,
back on
I know, it's crazy.
Fucking hell, mate.
People need to sell newspapers. Is part of the bottom line of that, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
They brought in Graham Souness. Fuck me. What did it? Because now we've got a younger generation who won't remember the Souness as the player or even the manager. Now all you know him for is Sky Sports. Now, if you've only just gotten into football in that sort of 5-10 year, but what did you make of him as a manager? He comes across as a miserable bastard.
The problem with Souness was, again, for me personally, I played that stretch of football I had in that one season when I won the fans back over and we went on that tear up in the cups, and then I got injured against Lisbon, unfortunately, when we were going to batter them. That stretch of football I had was the best I had at Newcastle. So for me, he was fantastic, because I was literally scared of him. He also, when all these problems were coming, he helped me win the fans back over. He made me mentally stronger. He also, when we were talking about by the time I went to West Ham and I started to wisen up, he was a part of that, because he pulled me aside one side and he said when he looks back over his career, he can look himself in the mirror and say he gave it 100%. Can you? And like, that always has resonated with me ever since. Listen, it took a while. I didn't say, right, that's it.
Yeah.
But the nights out started thing, and so for me it was brilliant. But again, a bit like Ruud Gullit, I don't know what it is with all these great players. They're not
Roy
great.
Keane,
They're not great man managers. And again, yes, we'd lost Gary Speed and the whole Craig Bellamy. Listen, I totally agree with Graham. Soon as Craig had to go after what happened when Craig went on TV, live on TV, and called his manager a liar, and but to
you're good mates with Craig.
Yeah,
Craig. It like I said at the start, what a fucking player he was on his day for us.
Yeah.
And when we had Shearer at his finishing, just elite level finishing, you, Nobby, Lauren Robert, Bellamy, the pace, the creativity, it was fucking. I would pay money to watch that any day of the week. It was quality.
Brilliant.
But what an arsehole he comes across as, Bellamy. He can't be that much of an arsehole because you're good mates with him.
He's not.
He doesn't put his best foot forward a lot of the time.
Craig has always got a chip on his shoulder with regards to for himself. So he's not blessed. So you know how when people talk about his pace, you talk about his pace. He's not blessed with that pace. Craig was fast, but he wasn't speedy like me. He worked every day in the gym, Olympic lifts. When we talk about getting the best out of your career, he did everything. Like, for all the, yes, he had nights out and that, but he was the most professional with regards to first into training. Like, he probably cost him his marriage football, because like on a Sunday he'd watch all the Super Sunday, he'd watch Italian football, he'd watch Spanish. Honestly, he was.
What a life she had.
Yeah, exactly. So everything he did was to make himself a better, and he was so demanding.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not just
obsessive
demanding.
Then.
Obsessive. Even off the pitch, he's just so obsessive and demands out of everybody, and that comes across like, I think in his book it's the human snarl. He calls himself, like, he's constantly like that. So his strength is seen as his weakness by a lot of people with his perception, because he's not.
I felt like we made him like before Newcastle got Craig Bellamy. Nobody knew who the fuck he was. Like in the Premier League, when we signed Craig Bellamy, who?
Yeah.
And he seems to forget that if we hadn't have plucked him from obscurity, in my opinion, and don't get us wrong, he grabbed the chance and he did smash it to a degree, but we gave you that chance, we backed you, and after us, he had some good games for some clubs, but he was never the same player. He was his best Bellamy, in my opinion, at Newcastle.
So with Craig, when you talk about this perception, so I mentioned, I don't know if you read the chapter, when I first come across Craig, we were Ipswich v Norwich, so we used to play each other in the Norwich youth teams, and he'd always say, you're fucking shit, and da-da-da. Just thinking, who is this little elf, as you call him? So then the next time we came across each other, it was the East Anglian derby. I'm in the first team, he's a sub for Norwich, I've played about 30 games, he's fritting in and out. So there's about 5 minutes to come and he's on the touchline, and he's now coming on. So as he's coming on, I'm playing right back at the time, and he looks over and he says, you are fucking shit. And I'm like, hang on, mate, I'm starting, you're a sub for Norwich, like, what are you talking about? And then the next time we come across the game was Newcastle v Coventry, and I scored one of the best goals I've scored for Norwich. I run from the half-line, tug a couple of pairs of thing. And as I'm walking back to the touchline, because he's missed about 3 1-on-1s and that, he's got his hands on his hips and he's just like shaking his head at me saying, you lucky gimp, he called me or something. I'm thinking, I don't even know what a gimp is, man. Like, so
his finishing was shit.
So
for a long time.
So when he signed for us and that, I was a bit, what's going to happen in the change room? But he was completely different.
He did one of the forwards for the book, didn't
he? Yeah, he did. Yeah, and what's I think he'll admit this as well. And when we talk about commentary, because when he was at Norwich, he was like, me and him were the two main guys, the best players to cut, and Robbie Keane at the time. Yeah. We were the three who everyone was talking about. And he went to Coventry and it didn't go right for him. But at Coventry, because they had a lot of senior players, he went there and he didn't say boo to a goose, if you know what I mean. So, as you know, what makes him tick on the pitch, he has to be demanding, he has to be... So he kind of went into his shell. And he says he can remember, and it was against... we played them, we beat them 3-0 when we went top of the league. There was only 4 games in, we went top of the league. We played them 3-0 and I was playing well. And JC, John Carver, and the gaffer JC must have said something to me or something. And I turned around to JC on the bench and went, fuck off, JC, or something. And Bellas was on the bench with commentary and he was like, fucking hell, a young player's like... And then he said when he came to Newcastle again, he was still in his shell and he just see how I was with the Shearers and the things like, if they're giving me banter, I'd give it back. And he's thinking, oh, what I was at Norwich, I can do it.
The penny dropped.
It kind of, I can still be myself around people, if you know what I mean. And I think that gave him the confidence to then be demanding. And because when he's not like that, he goes with him, so he doesn't play. And even with the Souness, that short period he had with Souness, after Souness wanted to strangle and rip his head off, Bellas went into his shell. And the next...
What did he call him a liar for? I can't remember. He called Graham Souness a liar on TV, didn't he? Is that right?
So again, it was the Bellas. Someone had told Souness that Bellas had feigned injury. We were playing Arsenal, and Bellas was going to be wide. And one of the lads said Bellas had feigned an injury. This is it's a funny story. And so the gaffer, Souness, was going to leave him out. So they had a meeting or whatever, and it got resolved. So I don't know if Craig said that's bullshit, but anyway, it got resolved, and Souness put Craig in the squad to go to Arsenal. So we went to Arsenal, and he then names the team and the subs, and Craig's not even on the bench. So Craig's in a hump. So obviously, as the game's going on at Arsenal, Jeff Shreves, being Jeff Shreves, says to Bellas, "Oh, you're injured," because one of the first questions Souness asked is, "Why is Craig?" "Oh, he's injured." So they said to Craig, "Oh, you're not involved today because you're." "I'm not injured." So Craig straight away, "No, I'm not injured." So the game finished, or after the game, me and Craig are sitting on the bus, and on the bus you got Sky Sports, so we're watching Sky Sports.
For fuck's sake!
I swear.
No
so
way.
After the game, Souness is getting interviewed about the game, and then they go on to Craig Bellamy. So they asked the question, "You've said Craig's injured. Craig's saying he's not injured. What's happening?" So Souness has said the story about, well, to tell the truth, Craig didn't want to play in a certain position, so he feigned an injury. So I'm sitting with like Craig now, and Craig's like, "I'm not having this," blah, blah, and Craig like storms off the bus. So we're like, "What the hell?" So I'm thinking, what's he doing now? Anyway, so the interview finished with Souness, and then it goes back into the studio. So the guest might be an ex-Arsenal player and that. And then all of a sudden you see Richard Keys on his earpiece go, "Sorry, we've got to cut you. We now got Craig Bellamy live in the tunnel." So Jeff Shreves got Craig, and Craig's like, "I didn't feign no injury. What is he talking about?" So that's when the shit was starting to hit the fan. So then we go
Jeff
back
Shreves is standing there like,
no.
can't believe this.
So we then go back to Newcastle, and
there's a lot to be said for shutting up.
And then I said and then the next day, Craig's got the Sky cameras going to his house.
When does this end?
And I'm like, "Craig, you are not going to win this battle." And
like,
but I think Craig listen, I can't talk for him, but just from my opinion, I think Craig was loved by the Geordies then, absolutely, because what a player he was for him. And Souness wasn't loved. So I think that Bellas thought he had the fans on, and that was the end. And that's, again,
my issue with Craig Bellamy is mainly just because he said on an interview when he was a pundit, and I quote, Newcastle fans think that they're up there with the Liverpools and Manchester Uniteds. And I remember watching that thinking, you fucking prick. Like, was literally, that really pissed me off. That,
do you think
like European Cup winners? Yeah, we've been relegated twice in 10 years, mate.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Fucking little leprechaun. Anyway, I'll let him off with it now. He's probably alright to be fair, but yeah.
He seems like a good guy.
He seems like a bell end, to be honest, but we'll let him off. So, moving forward, that was the era of the Lee Bowyer fight, which honestly, I've got pretty decent social media following. Thousands of tweets asking what the hell happened there. I was there that day.
Yeah.
Right when Stevie Taylor acted like he got shot.
Classic.
At that point, that was enough for me, and I said, "Fuck this! I'm going home." Right, so I literally get up, and I'm like, "I'm fucking going. I've had enough." Right, I said to the lads, "I'm fucking off."
What minute is this?
It's like end of the game.
Right,
we're down like, what was it, 3-1?
3-0,
something like that. I'm walking down the stairs. And do you know how when you walk down the stairs, you've got the bars and you've got the monitors, and I'm just about to turn and go down the next set of stairs, and I look on the telly, and there's the Bowyer Dyer punching each other. I thought, fuck me, I'm definitely going. What is going on at this club? What happened?
Yeah, so after the when I said this, so after the right wing thing, situation, I started to win the fans out, and I was playing brilliant football. We just got into the semi-final of the FA Cup. We had the next leg, we had the quarter-final against Sporting Lisbon coming up, and I was on fire. Even in the game, we're losing 3-0, but I think personally, fucking hell, I'm on fire, and I'm playing right wing.
Stevie Taylor will do that with him.
So basically, I'm right wing. Bo's come square for me to give him, because he wants me to pass him the ball, and he just whips it into the striker. But I take a different option. I think I go out the other side to the other centre half, and he's getting frustrated. Again, for all Bo's qualities on the pitch, he gives 110%, works his heart on his sleeve.
He's a good player as well.
100%. And he's like, Pin, because that was my nickname, Pin, fucking pass me the ball. And I'm like, so I get what he's saying, but Bo, I haven't given the ball away. If I gave the ball away, fucking shout at me anyway.
Yeah.
So you got to remember, we were 2 or 3-0 down at the time, so tensions are flaring. And then about 5 minutes later, I go to receive the ball again, get it. He's come to show again. Again, I've passed the ball, not give the ball away. He's like, fucking hell, you fucking never passed me the ball, fucking Pin, fucking I'm getting sick. So I'm like, fuck off. And he's like, what? And I went, so now I'm frustrated. And again, what I said was below the belt. But things like that I always said, but you don't. So I've turned around and said, the reason why I don't pass you the ball is because you're fucking shit.
Right. The old Craig Bellamy.
And as soon as I said that, the eyes just like, right, it was like something just switched, and then...
Was he a bad-tempered bastard?
Yeah, he was. He was, he had a short fuse. And he's come walking beside me, he's come walking down to me, I'm facing him now, and his head's gone. And he's like, come in. So first thing I've done is grabbed him on the neck to refrain him, and never in a million years did I think what was going to happen next. And then he's throwing punches. I think he threw 4 punches, and the whole episode lasted 5 seconds, but it seemed to go in slow motion because I had so many thoughts about the incident. So when he's raining punches, I'm thinking, I cannot believe he's throwing punches in front of 52,000 people. What the fuck are you doing, Bo? This is what's going through me, because I don't know if it was adrenaline, but I didn't even feel the punches, or he must need to get on the weights or something. So
when the adrenaline's going, you don't feel a thing.
So as this is happening, and he's raining, and I'm thinking, surely not. Like, what the fuck? And then after 3 or 4, I think, fuck this, and then I throw a haymaker and miss, and we get separated. So I'm pretty calm at the time. I'm not angry or anything like that. And I didn't think you could get sent off for fighting your teammates, because it's unprecedented. I've never really ever seen it. I see, obviously everyone talks about the Batty and Lasso incident, but no one got sent off. So when the referee comes up to me and shows me a red card, I'm thinking, what the fuck? So I get sent off, and I hear the groans, and then he gets sent off, and then I go down the stairs, and I'm waiting in the tunnel. So I'm waiting in the tunnel for him. So I'm thinking, so he comes sent off next. So I said, you think you're fucking hard now? You want to fight? Let's fight now. So we're like ready to go at it in the tunnel and have a proper scrap. And I'm thinking, well, you just give me 4 punches, I didn't feel it. Like, I'll take you, but knowing Bowie'd have probably bit my nose off or something. And probably, yeah. So we'd then sprinted to each other to get to each other. And we had these two masseurs who worked in the prisons, Lenny and Paul, or Lenny and John, or if I can remember. And they literally, right, they donk us on our shoulders. You know, when your little legs are like in the air thing, and like we're swearing.
They're used to fucking prisoners.
So then they put me on one side, they put Bo in the other side, we're in the change room, and they like sit in the middle. So it's all crap, like where we're trying to get each other, like we're never going to get each other. And then Stephen Taylor comes out of the change room, the showers after being sent off, and he's like, "Oh, is the game over?" And we're like, Lenny and John are like telling him we've been sent off, so he's buzzing because it softens the blow for him.
Oh, took the fucking heat off him.
So we're still angry.
Yeah, an absolute stinker.
Yeah.
We're still calling each other pricks, all sorts, and you hear the final whistle go. And it's funny because when you hear the studs in the tunnel, you can hear them coming. But there was just like one set of studs sprinting up the tunnel. So thinking, who the hell's that? And it was Boomsong. And Boomsong's like, "You want to fight? You want to fight? Fight now!" Like proper going. And I'm thinking, yeah. I'm thinking to mate, yeah, I'll fight him now. Like I want some revenge. And then all the lads come in, and that's when Al comes in. And I've never seen Al. For all hours, that's the most angriest I've ever seen. And he was like, "You fucking selfish pricks, you fuck," like going on, honestly mad. But he obviously knew because this was his last season. I think he agreed for a season afterwards, but we're in the cup semi-final. We're in the cup semi-final, and he knew we'd be suspended. So he's fucking raging. I'm not saying it was because of a selfish thing because he wanted to win the FA, but the whole
in his mind, this is his last big chance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And whatever you say about me and Bowyer, we would have made the team stronger. Mm-hmm. So then I didn't realise at the time. So from anger, I've then gone to feeling, oh fuck, I've let the team down again. And then obviously Souness comes in. And I can remember the quote, he says, "I'm now going outside to the media to watch the incident. If I think I know what I've seen, then I will fight the pair of you." I think, oh fucking hell.
Fuck me.
Here we go. So
Boomsong sitting at the side going, yes,
so now all I'm thinking is I've gone from anger to just like, here we go again. I've won the Geordies back, and now I'm going to be back to square one. I cannot believe what is happening to me. Like, because everyone talks about that incident, and I think it was proven with the club not punishing me, and they tried to appeal the red card. I was wrong for calling him he's fucking shit. I get that, but you never expect a fight to break out over something like that. Maybe on the training pitch, it happens all the time, and all I did was hold him from beating the crap a bit. After 3, I swung a punch. So I'm just there. All I'm thinking about is, I'm not thinking about the FA Cup semi-final. I'm just thinking about the fans. I am fucked with the fans again. And then Souness has obviously watched it come back in, and then he just rips into Bo. He says, "Fucking, I'm exempt," and da-da-da-da, "what the fuck are you doing?" Da-da-da. And then Freddie comes down, and I'll never forget, this is a chairman of a football club. Mm-hmm. I love Freddie. I had my bumps in that with Freddie, and he comes down and he says to me, "You should have headbutted him." He's like, "This is your chairman." I'm thinking, what? He said, "What he did to you, how you showed so much refrain, you should have headbutted him." Fucking, and they just started piling on Bo. So then I've gone from feeling sorry for myself to feeling sorry for Bo. It's weird how all these emotions were just racing.
Because you triggered him in a way.
And now he's getting all the shit. Like, they were saying he had to take a 6 weeks' wages, he'll be sacked. And so I'm feeling sorry for him now. And then we get... we have to do the press conference when we had to apologise, the written statements, and I think if people Google that or YouTube it, I'm nearly in tears in that, because I just think I just cannot believe I've gone back to square one. And then the next Monday at the training ground, we had to do that fake handshake shit, which just made it even worse. And but when I was going home from that game, I was going back to Ipswich. My mum was up and we were driving back to Ipswich, and like a dickhead, I put on the Radio 5 line phone line, and all the Geordies are saying they should never play for the club again. And
I might have been one of those.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking, this can only happen to me. And then, to be fair, Bo rings me up and he apologises and just says, look, it is my fault and I lost the thing, and we made up straight away. Mm-hmm. But what made it even worse is that when a fan complains about some physical, the police get involved, and the police were practically begging for me to press charges on him, and it's like, I'm never going to do that. Like, leave the guy alone. And that was basically.
Do you know, for me personally, I was probably one of the people who was more pissed off at Stevie Taylor that day, because he was having a shocker. Where at least he used to, in a weird way, showed you give a shit. Like, and I know, like me and him, when we're working on stuff, projects and that, sometimes we'll be fucking like arguing like hell. Do you know what I mean? And that is part of caring about what's happening. In a weird way.
I like you said that about Stephen Taylor, because obviously everyone classed Stephen Taylor as one of their own in the Geordie and that.
He's fucking terrible.
I never bought into that. He's one of their own.
He thought he was our John Terry. I never did. I thought he was absolute dog shit, mate. And it didn't surprise me when he went to America and got found out on day one. He wasn't even good enough for the fucking Buccaneers or wherever the hell he ended up.
He came to Ipswich. So listen, I like the guy, but
probably a nice one.
I always buy into this. I think he was like he played on I'm a Geordie, look at me, and to get the fans' respect. And to be fair, we always just say, you're fucking from Greenwich. You're not fucking Geordie. You talk shit.
Like, he puffed his chest out and the body language was all right.
Yeah.
It's a bit like when you first start playing football as a kid and you want to be seen as a leader, but the actual football knowledge was totally not there at all.
Did you always find football quite easy then? Do you always read the game very well? And because to play centre midfield is probably one of the hardest positions. They're all hard positions. But.
In a way, my versatility went against me. I was left out of the Euro 2000 squad when Kevin King said, I don't know what your best position is, but I think...
I'll tell you, Kevin.
But I played in every single position except for centre-half and goalkeeper. I played right back, left back, right wing back, left wing back, right wing, left wing, midfield 3, midfield 2, up top. So I think playing all them positions and seeing it from different angles, I think it gave me a great knowledge of the game. And like I said... if I had my mindset what I had today, when I was playing on the left or the right or any position, I would have thrived. But again, like I said, players, it's never their fault, it's never our fault, and we always look for excuses. And playing out of position, I classed as a negative and used that as an excuse for having a bad game, when it's total bollocks at the end of the day.
Was it something that always came quite naturally to you? Did you always find it that football was just so easy, you knew where to put the ball, or were you always quite a conscious player, someone who needed coaching?
I find it weird that, and again, when I was coming through the Ipswich Academy and when I was in Ipswich schoolboy and coming through, we were coached on different aspects of the game. When you then go into the first team, which I think is really refreshing with Pep, which I never really see. So when you go into the first team, everything's based for the team and getting a result. So as an individual, you stop getting individual coaching because everything's geared for the match day.
You see him take players aside.
Well, you just look at the results they've had with the Otamendes, the Raheem Sterlings. These individual players are kicking on, and it's because it seems that he coaches individuals as well.
That footage of him with Raheem when he showed him to turn and run.
So when you say did it come natural, it did come natural, because it's like when you get into the first, especially at Ipswich and that, I had to learn. I had to have my street smarts and learn off the cuff, if you know what I mean. Even with Sir Bobby, the greatest manager I've ever played with, but we very rarely didn't play. We used to play 4-4-2. When you talk about all these tactical 4-4-2, man,
I loved it.
Keep it simple.
Never did any coaching. If he did coaching, he'd do a basic passing drill, and you're thinking, bloody hell. But that just goes to show you get walked. So yeah, I was quite fortunate enough that I learned off the cuff, because I got coached to a point, and then off you go.
One position you played very well, apparently, Cheryl Tweedy.
Yeah.
What was it like dating a pop star and all of that?
Well, it was always under wraps for a start, so it was never out there. But like you said, when you that, I call that peak Newcastle for me, because Champions League, all this money coming in, dating celebrity pop star, even though people didn't know, but like it was more of a buzz for my friends and people like that. Fucking hell, I'm going out of dating a Shearer and stuff like that.
What's she like as a person?
Fantastic. It was around the time when there was the toilet attendant, and they said she was
she had that face.
There was a racial attack on a toilet attendant, and it was complete and utter nonsense.
To be fair, if she'd revealed that she was dating you, that could have sort of...
Yeah, of course,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I've got news for you.
But yeah, she was a great girl. And like I said, I think a touch on it, so she was married, and like we dated for a bit and then broke up, and then when the Grosvenor House story broke, when I was accused of being a rapist even though I weren't there, so she found my address and sent me a thinking of you card, right. Just little touch like that. And then when my sister went to prison, this was like 5-6 years later, how she got my mum's address. She got my mum's address and sent my mum flowers just saying thinking of you, and just little things like that. You just think,
that's when you know someone's
like, so when you see her having the success she is and finally look like she found happiness, it couldn't have happened to a nicer person.
Did because you speak a lot about how your experience as a child shaped your career, do you think your experience as a child shaped some of your more intimate relationships with people, with women, how do you think it affected you and people you were close with?
I never let people in. I let someone in before and they fucking ruined me. So with friends, family, teammates, ex-girlfriends of mine, I would never give 100%. I'd always have barriers up. And it's destroyed a lot of friendships, relationships. I could go on. There was the stubbornness, I wanted to be on my own. People, especially strangers, they must have thought I was an obnoxious prick. If someone brought a stranger who I didn't know, I'd like walk out of the room. I couldn't, because I just didn't trust them. I just wouldn't allow that to happen. So
did you keep your circle small? Or?
Yeah, I've got 3 best friends, and they're still my best friends today. But there's been periods where I fell out of them for a year over, again, pettiness. And then,
did you take on yes men and that at any point?
No. Because I never let people in, really. I had 3 groups of friends, and then my teammates became my friends. Because, again, sorry to change subject, but when you talk about the Brat Pack and you talk about...
Who's that when you say that? Because some people won't know who they're
The Brat Pack?
Yeah.
Well, where does the list stop? You could have myself, you could have Craig, JJ, Titus, Carl Court, Wayne Quinn... Could throw Jonathan Woodgate when he came, Lamano, Loire. Who else was?
I heard stories about you and
you can even put Nobby in there.
Yeah.
Jermaine Janice driving your Escalades.
With the spinning wheels and that. You just think, what were you doing?
So but also though, what a generation of car! Like you guys were lucky to have the Escalade. That was the iconic.
The thing is, you try park that in the gate. It's a left-hand drive.
Yeah.
Our flashy wheels with spinners scraping on the concrete. You have to jump out of the feet. You have to it was. What?
You were looking like rappers and not footballers.
Exactly.
Basically.
But going up back to that.
Yeah.
So, and I've noticed this at other football clubs when I left, and even at Ipswich. You don't have friends at football clubs. You have colleagues.
Right.
You go and play football. You might have a social night or something, but that's it. You wouldn't club. We were genuine friends. And I think, I'm still friends with all these people today. So that general bond and trust that we had when we went onto the football pitch, I think that shows. Again, because when you look at that Newcastle team, you got Shearer, who wasn't at his prime. So when you look at our team 1 to 11, did we have any world-class players in our team? Obviously, Alan Shearer was world-class, but he wasn't at the time. And the success we had is incredible. And I think for all the negativity, the thing we get, I think a big part of that is that we generally had a bond and care and love for each other. And I think that showed on the football pitch.
Do you think it was... did you all had a very good understanding out on the pitch as well? Because that showed as well. Who was the easiest player to play with? Who was the guy that you always knew?
My favourite Newcastle player, my favourite player to ever play. No.
Oh.
Alberto Solano.
Yeah.
Man, me and him had this understanding where it was just...
I remember.
And I always put him in my all-time 11s and everything. He was... And listen, and if he had my pace, and if Nobby had pace, like genuine, ridiculous, he would be, when you talk world-class, he would be on a different planet. Because I have never seen a footballing brain and a right foot like that. And I've been with David Beckham, who had a wand. But Nobby Solano's was just, he was my favourite player by miles. And we had again, when I first come as a young lad in Newcastle, he always used to invite me round for dinner, and he was such, and like when you talk about, because I talk about Newcastle fans, when I thought I kept the team up that last season, they're singing a song for everyone and they like worshipped Sibieski. And I'm thinking, fucking, I say in the book, like, fucking Sibieski, like, you want to like, just kept you up, like, and I get it, but one player who's idolised by Newcastle, and rightly so, is Nobby, because that guy was my favourite player to play with ever. Not saying he was the best, but my favourite. It was just awesome. My favourite moment as a Newcastle fan, I told you about this yesterday, weirdly enough, when we come back and beat Leeds 4-3. And then I think almost the game after... No, we beat Arsenal before and then Leeds the following.
Yeah, and when we beat Arsenal, we went top of the league at Christmas. And I remember being a kid thinking, what a fucking team I support. We're top of the league at Christmas. We've just rinsed Arsenal at Highbury. And the pace, the creativity.
A good Arsenal team as well.
Thierry Henry, man.
Yeah.
8 great Arsenal team.
Fucking smashed them.
I think Titus gave them a goal early. Was it Titus when he tries to clear it and it comes off his foot?
Yeah.
And then Ray Parlour gets sent off.
Yeah. Shearer's going, don't send him off.
But he's clever. He said the red card had already come out. Then he was giving it the good Samaritan. Then Andy O'Brien scores a header. Robert goes down for a penalty. Shearer scores the penalty. Craig Bellamy gets sent off, and then Robert makes it 3-1.
That was my.
But the Leeds game was
really
one of the best games I played for the club. Must have been Arsenal was my first proper game back from a long-term injury, and then to go to Ellen Road, and we were on fire that day. I think I had a hand in 3 of the goals. Nobby scoring the last minute.
Yeah, I was fucking sick, mate, honestly.
But yeah, like you said, we had so much legs around Alan, because he was the best finisher there. And then to have Craig, myself, Robert, all these legs around him, we just attacked.
You were also part of, like you say, you knew Beckham, you knew this generation of guys who are arguably like megastars, and you were part of that pack, if you like.
One thing that's been mentioned about that pack, which is a little bit, is the gambling and all that was going on. How bad did it get? Would you say?
Well, I think the excess at the Euro 2004, like I said, when players, I was
the Wayne Rooney tournament, as I remember it.
As a player, if he didn't get injured, Jesus. But so yeah, the Euro 2004, there was we're talking about how bad the gambling was at one stage. Was that I was about 40 odd grand down, and we were playing free card brag.
We've all been there.
We were playing free card brag, and there was 4 or 5 of us playing, and was having a peek at my cards. I see 2, 3, 4, all black, but I haven't seen the suits. So it's got to the stage that a couple of players out, there's 3 of us left in, and we're going 2 grand open at a time, 2 grand open. And we didn't have cash at the time, so we owe you. So it's going 2 grand, 2 grand, 2 grand, 2 grand, 2 grand, 2 grand, 2 grand. And the thing with free card brag, you cannot see unless there's two players. So this is going on, and then I think it go like £4,000 open. So it's going round and round loads of times. So I'm panicking. So I look at my thing. I've got 2, 3, 4, all of the same suit. So I think buzzing. So anyway, someone goes out, and then someone sees me, and I win the hand. I have a 2, 3, 4 suited. They have like an ace 2, 3, but off different suits. So in that one hand, I went from 40 grand down to like 55 grand up. So it was 100 grand in one hand, and you just
you're betting houses at that point.
And you're thinking, listen, we're all on massive wages, but if that's just one hand, just imagine if you have a bad week, you could be £500,000 down, and you're preparing to play France in a Euro 2000. I don't care how much money you've got, how wealthy you are. If you've lost £500,000 to a teammate 3 days, 4 days before a match, how do you go onto that pitch playing to your maximum? If you know what I mean. So,
well, what they do is they come to you and they go, if you score a goal today, I'll let you off your debts.
Yeah, that's a good way, but it doesn't work like that. So I'm not saying that was one of the reasons why we didn't do well in the tournaments, but if you put that kind of culture, then the mindset of we shit in bags and that kind of thing, and the unprofessionalism, and you put that all together, is that a reason why? Because for all that, when you talk about that golden generation with the 2002, 2004, 2006 tournament, the 2002 World Cup, we lost to a team we lost to Brazil, and Brazil had Rivaldo, Ronaldinho and Ronaldo as their front three. They had Cafu and Roberto Carlos, who were probably the best fullbacks the world has ever seen. They had Lucio, who's a beast of a centre-half. They had one of the best holding midfielders in Gilberto. And we lose to them, and we're classed as failures.
Right. Yeah.
And you're thinking, if we beat them, I think we go on to win that tournament. But you're talking about, yes, we had a world-class team and world-class players, but we were missing Steven Gerrard and Gary Neville in that tournament. And we've lost to probably one of the best teams ever, and we're classed as failures. And then you go to 2 years later, we are flying in that tournament. Rooney obviously gets injured, but then we go out in penalties. And as you see, the Euro 96 team, Shearer, are classed as a success, but they had to beat Spain on penalties, and Spain scores a goal that was a legit goal.
Different kind of Spain.
If you know what I mean. And so it just goes to fine margins that, because we lost on penalties, and that's always a lottery. So I can understand everyone's, because I reckon that's probably one of the only times when I look at the Euro 2004 team, and it was Gary Neville right back, Sol, John Terry centre halves, Rio was obviously suspended from the drug test, Ashley Cole left back, Beckham, Scholes, Gerrard and Lampard as the midfield four, and Michael Owen and Rain. And you look and you think, that is genuine 10 world-class players at the time. So I get where everyone says they didn't achieve what they did, but losing on penalties is such a fine line. Even the great Spain team, they had to beat Portugal on their way to win the tournament on penalties. Our Euro 96 team had to beat Spain to get to the semi. So yes, we underachieved, but I think the criticism when they say they didn't perform is maybe a bit harsh.
I'm less bothered about the criticism, because I can sort of...
Yeah.
It's fine.
Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, did you... When you talk about the betting, you talk about these guys are mega stars, and arguably, you're not David Beckham. You know what I mean when I say that. Do you feel a certain pressure to sort of keep up with these guys in a way and prove your worth in that side? Because that must have been difficult to go into a group of guys who go, like David Beckham is sitting next to you, and you're going in as someone who's not that. You're not David. You're not.
What do you mean by that? You mean not in a financial sense, in a celebrity sense? I just mean it. Yeah. Well, in all ways, it's David Beckham is, and some of those players are considered to be sort of, they were demigods in a way at that time. Like, did you feel like you had to keep up? Was there that mentality?
No, I think when you look at the John Terrys, Franks, Rios, they've all had their scrapes, they've all done their cock-ups. in the start, but they fulfilled their potential. They went on to be world-class players. Like you said, I'm the same age as Frank and people like that. I made my England debut. I was miles ahead of them at the time. I was coming through, if you know what I mean. So when you went to the England squad and you see the success they did, they should have made me realise to wise up. Fucking hell, they've done it. Like, why aren't you fulfilling your potential? And like I said, it was only when Souness come in, and then I got the move to West Ham. When I had that mindset, they were like an inspiration to me. That yes, they've cocked up, but look at them now. They're fulfilling their potential. They're amazing players, and it's just a shame that I never got the chance because I could never stay fit after that, because I firmly believe in my prime that I was well on my way to doing that.
I mean, I've been critical of you, mate, but you were a fucking class player. There's no two ways about it. But that brings us on to the injuries. You had a lot, unfortunately, and I just want to touch on that before I let you go.
Of course, yeah.
What is it like to be an injury-prone player? Because we see players like Daniel Sturridge, and they almost get a lot of shit for it, as if it's their fault.
Do you know I think it was really an eye-opener to my family, my mum, my wife, is that they get obviously they know about the child abuse, and that's very sad, but reading about the embarrassment and the torture injuries caused me, and because I never wanted to show vulnerability and I never spoke about it, actually reading that for them, I think it brought tears to their eyes. Because do you know how many games I played with ripped hamstrings because I couldn't go off to see my board going up? So I would play with ripped hamstrings, and this is numerous, over a handful of times, with a ripped thigh or a ripped hamstring, where I couldn't face the shame of my board going up. So I would go all the way to half time so I didn't have to have that embarrassment. And that happened so many times. And people when they think you're injured and they think, oh, that don't matter, he's getting paid, he's in the treatment, it's complete and utter nonsense. Like you said, the embarrassment it causes you, the pain it causes you, because all you want to do is play football. And embarrassment is the word that sums it up. It was
even at West Ham. Gold, was it? He dug you out over it. What did he say? I can't really remember.
He basically said, we have a player who's done fuck all for the club, who's on this big dough, and it's about time they retired. But also people don't realise, and it's a great story at Newcastle I touch on in the book, and it cost me a year of my career, but it lost Graham Souness's job. It lost when I done my hamstring, I come off against Sporting Lisbon, and then we end up losing. I get a new contract that season because Souness wants to build the team around me, and I missed the whole of next season, and Souness obviously gets sacked. So I do pre-season, and we're in that crappy cup, that in Toto crappy cup. So we're just about to play a team, and I feel my hamstring again when I did against Sporting Lisbon. So I go for a scan, and the radiologist reads the scan, says I've got a grade 1 strain on my hamstring, a few weeks of rehab. Anyway, this goes on through the whole season, and it goes on for the whole season. I go to see Muller Wolfhart, I go see specialists all up and down the country. One specialist saying it's my back, one specialist saying it's my hip. Anyway, we cannot get down to the bottom of the thing. I miss, basically, like I said, the whole season. I come back, we play a game against West Brom, and that was the first time Souness got to play what he would class as his starting 11. I come on in the second half, and we had a midfield of Nobby, Scott Parker, Emre, me on the left, Shearer and Michael Owen up front, which sounds on paper fucking very decent. We win the game 3-0. Michael Owen scores 2 great goals. Shearer scores a great goal. I go down the line, take on someone, pull the ball back, Michael Owen score. I feel my hamstring again. Embarrassed, shock, play the rest of the game. I go into the change room, convincing myself that it's just tight, it's tight. I know it's gone, but you know, you're getting the massage to massage it. I'm like, does it feel tight? And he's like, yeah. And I think, yeah, it's convincing me. So we have Sunday off, we go in Monday, and because, like I said, I'm coming back from hamstring, I'm training half-heartedly, and Souness is like, you need to train, you need to get match toughness. Anyway, I break down crying. I was just saying, look, my hamstring's gone. And I go into the change room. And at the time I was taking a medication for this condition I had, and the medication slows down your healing process. So they were trying to say that might be a factor from my injuries, which it wasn't. But at the time, the club then issues you a statement saying Kieron will be out in the unforeseeable future because of medical reasons, which was the worst thing you can do at Newcastle, because then the rumour was that I had cancer, I had AIDS, I had fucking people ringing me up, are you dying, and all this.
Jimmy and Janice just sitting there thinking, thank fucking God I'm in Newcastle.
So you're thinking, what the hell? So it gets to the stage now where we play as soon as he's under pressure, and I'm doing more rehab, going to see all these specialists all up and down the world, all for a hamstring. And all it keeps saying is a grade 1 hamstring. So as soon as we're playing Man City away, and I'm in the squad, and I'm having a fitness day on the day of the game, and I can feel my hamstring. But again, bit with the Bobby situation, where I wanted to play against Aston Villa, I say, even though my hammies, I want to play, I will try my hardest to get you this win. And he's like, thanks for the gesture, but no. He loses, he gets sacked. So you're thinking, I haven't played all season. Souness was going to build a team around me, haven't helped, so I'm a bit low. So Glenn Roeder comes in, and at this stage I'm thinking I'm retiring. So Glenn Roeder's trying to persuade me to stay. I then play against Southampton in the cup, and I score the winner. I pull my hamstring again, that same stabbing feeling. After 5 minutes, I play the whole game and score, because I'm so embarrassed of coming off.
Is that a constant pain, or so? What
Constant
kind of,
pain. Every stride I had is like you get the stabbing feeling, like, right. But it just mentally, I just had to get through it. So,
which is making it worse, ironically, surely.
Well, I'll get to when we find out. So again, I don't tell no one. Score the winner. We play Charlton a few days later, and then I'm like, I can't go through this pain no more. I said to Glenn Roeder, that's it. I'm done.
Are the physios not saying anything to you in between?
They're baffled, because you got to remember the physio. So what I'm getting to is the radiologist who's reading my scans are the ones who, and I'll get to. So the physios are like, they're just devastated for me. They're just like, that's why everyone was going about the medication. Is it slowing down your healing? So Glenn Roeder's like, I'm saying I'm done, and he was like, Kieron, I know you've been through. Please, can you go and see John Green? I'm like, who the fuck's John Green? He's like, he's a old West Ham physio I had. He's got his own clinic. So I said, all right. So I went down to this John Green, and his clinic was an absolute shithole. Right. Like equipment from the 1800s that looked like. So I'm already sulking. So he strips me down to my boxes, and he's just assessing me. And what was a good thing straight away, he assessed that my right glute wasn't firing. So I said, what does that mean? He says, try and tense your bum cheek. And I couldn't tense it on my right side. So he said, that's a good sign, because when you're sprinting that, your glute's meant to kick in to take some of the strain off your hamstring. So all the hamstring's doing all your work. So I thought, oh, that's a sign. At least we're getting somewhere. So he said, have you got your scans? So I've got a year of scans from my hamstring. So I said, yeah. So he said, let's go down to Jerry Healy. He's one of these, works in one of these London hospitals. I can't believe what I'm going to say next. So we go to London, we get these scans on. He puts all these scans on the thing, and he turns on the light, and he goes, oh, you got paratendinitis. Literally, so from the scan when I first did it in pre-season to all the scans, every single one, he go, oh, it's paratendinitis. Right. So I said, what does that mean? He says, basically, you've got a paratendinitis is the tendon in your hamstring. When you run, because your glute's not kicking in, because you run, you're putting strain on the tendon. It's inflamed. So
the muscle's not taking any of the power.
So it's just inflamed. So you just flare up your hamstring, and that's where you get the stabbing pain. So I was like, oh, okay. I said, so when they're saying you've got grade 1 rips, he said, no, you haven't. Mm-hmm. They've read the scans wrong. So I said, oh, okay. So when you hear paratendinitis, you think I need an operation, or it's going to be. And I said, so what's the cure then? He says, well, I'm going to now take you and give you a steroid injection. Let the steroid injection settle your tendon down, and then you're good to go. So I had to process this. So I said, if I'd have come to you at the start of the season, when with that first scan, you would have said, you've got paratendinitis. You would have given me the injection. I would have then gone with John Green and just built up my glute for a few weeks, and then I would have been fit for the whole season. So I lost a year of trusting medical people to do their jobs. Was that Newcastle's doctors? No, yeah, it was the radiologist who was reading them. Fuck knows who he is. If you go to a hospital for a scan, radiologist, it's got nothing to do with Newcastle, it's the hospitals. So we lost a year. Souness lost his job. I'm getting labelled injury prone. Yes, did I have injuries a lot? Yes, but that one thing could have been prevented, and you just think...
Could you have played the whole year? Could you have kept someone there?
The next season when I came back, the season when I said I kept him up, I played every game. I played like about 40 games when I came back into the season, and you think... And we're the one who gets painted in this brush of always injured in that, and just something that simple could have...
Unreal.
So you must have felt a certain level of resentment to those people who were reporting then this person's injury.
They can't even remember his name, so probably not.
Yeah.
No, I mean the people who were reporting, the journalists, are saying this guy's injury prone. How did you?
But they just see the effect; they don't see the cause.
You must feel angry though, because you. What I'm saying is, they can see that effect, but they're wrongly attributing that effect to you rather than other people who have the responsibility.
I do, yeah, I did, because again, I've touched on it. I think. When I live my life right, I can never stay fit. I think some of that goes to the lifestyle that I was living, with regards to out 4 times a week and living wrong, and my diet was crap. But there are times, especially like you said, where as football players you put your trust into these medical people, and listen, medical people are only humans, but they get it wrong. And you do everything you're told with regards to rehab, and when you keep breaking down, you're the one who gets labelled as thing, when really you've just got the wrong advice. And that was proven that I missed a whole year of my career. And even with my broken leg at West Ham, which I go into great details, yes, I had a horrific injury, but it's a pretty straightforward operation. I had 4 operations on my one leg.
Fuck me.
4 operations and I go into it in massive detail.
You know, when Gold dug you out, what did you think about him at that point, though? Like, because you never really said that to us before. Were you angry, or did you just think, let it go? Or?
I did laugh to myself, because the amount of times I said to these West Ham physios, is it time for me to check it in? And they were like, no. And I was like, well, if you really knew that I was thinking about it numerous times, then I don't know why you have to come out. But he just bought a club, and I was asked about it. I don't think
the West Ham fans like him too much now anyway.
I was just like, you're the owner of the club, you can say what you want.
There's a great trick actually with those sorts of people. You go to the team, you go to a bar with them, you get them all to shit in a bag, and then you just
fuck it. I would take one of them finger laxatives or something, and definitely shit in a bag with him.
So when you see someone like Daniel Sturridge now, or you see any of those players who are going through chronic injury, a time like that, how do you relate to them? Because I felt very sorry for Daniel Sturridge.
I do. I'm glad you do feel sorry for him, because again, people class it like he's not really. But I hear a lot, he's not bothered. There was the time when people said, what was the thing they said? He hasn't got the heart, because when Klopp first come in, he said no one's 100% every game, and he's got to play through these aches and pains. And
that was an interesting thing.
And I'm like, it's true. No one feels 100%. I get that, but I know what he's going through, and it is complete embarrassment. And how he came off after 3 minutes the other night, I wouldn't have been able to. I would have stayed on, and I think it might get to the stage where, because it's horrible, and it's not just him. There's so many players. Darren Anderton was before me, and all these players. Of course,
used to call him tampon, didn't they?
That was the thing. But you must feel that element of responsibility, which then makes it even harder to recover, because you've got stress. Do you think you carry quite a lot of stress you carry stress in your body at some point, that sort of thing?
Do you still feel it now?
Yeah.
No, like I play with the vets with my mate. We play in a vets league, and I'm still fast, and I've never had any problems since, and which is again quite ironic. But I do feel with my injuries, because of the the type of game. Like I said, I was always in the top 3 of running, and I broke into the first team. I'd had about 100 games by the time I was 18, 19. I just think it's no coincidence the likes of myself, Michael Owen, Jonathan Woodgate, who was rapid as well. These high intensity players who have played so much football at a young age, it catches up to you.
Woodgate was underrated.
He was incredible.
When we look back at the great centre backs for England, people always mention like Ferdinand, Campbell, and John Terry. I always thought Woodgate was the best of the 4 of them, actually, but his injuries.
I put Rio first and then Woody second, and
as a pair.
No, just in order. If you but as a 4, if Woody didn't get injured, like a bit like you could say with me, he would be. Listen, Real Madrid just don't buy anyone.
No,
and
did you ever
that season he had with us at
good.
Newcastle? He was just
unreal.
Did you ever look at in training? You must have been alongside Obafemi Martins. Did you ever look at him and go, "What the fuck? How are you doing this, mate? You're like 50 and you're still playing."
Yeah, we did used to rib him about the age. Wow, I thought I was quick, and he put the Bunsen burners on me once and left me like wow. And I could go like where some players are rapid over 10, 15 yards. I can maintain that over 100 to, and he was a great lad. He was a weird one to work at. Him and Laurent Robert. I love Laurent Robert, but Laurent Robert was so temperamental. If you shouted at him, he would refuse to pass to you in a game.
Right.
I swear. So if you bollocked him or that, like, could you imagine Craig? He went like 2 games without passing to Craig, and like Craig would have a tap in, and he would shoot from a ridiculous angle, and Craig would like was have a word with fucking him and that, and Lauren was just like pulled down to him like
wow.
But his goal was the one that was used in the movie Goal. Lauren Robert's. They used that.
I remember a Newcastle fan said to me that I didn't score a great amount of goals, but I was a scorer of great goals for Newcastle. Some of the guys scored, but then for Lauren, just like every one of his goals, they were just.
Well,
it's been interesting.
I just want to ask one more thing before I ask my final question. What are you like as a dad? Because it seems like you've grown up a lot, and you said you used to be quite hard on your son. I know you've got quite a few kids.
When everyone talks about my book and obviously the abuse chapter's in it, I always say the hardest chapter for me to read is the daughter chapter, and I touch on about when I get a girl pregnant, my daughter, we decide to keep her a secret for 4 years. And I said I fell out with this girl and I went a year without seeing my daughter. And I touch on about the first few years of my oldest son, Kai. Obviously he was in Ipswich, and when I had days off, it's a night out in Julie's, it's a night of crashing your Ferrari, and like, why wasn't I going home on every day? So
crashes Ferrari on the Tyne Bridge, by the way.
Yeah, classic.
So I'm saying, like, for the first 3 years of my older son, and like I said, I lost a year of my daughter's life, I basically say that I played at being a dad, threw a bit of money at it and thought, you're doing your job, but I was a shit dad, if you know what I mean. And that's tough to say and tough to hear. So now I think I'm a fantastic dad.
Before you came today, by the way, I read that chapter upstairs in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Literally, like, I'm about to meet you.
Yeah.
And I had this image in my head, and I thought, all right, he's definitely learned something from life, this guy. Exactly, and I knew before I said hello to you that you're not the person I thought you were going to be, just by reading that chapter.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So fair play for holding your hands up, because it's hard to do that, especially as men. You are judged more than anything on how you are as a dad, I think.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So fair play to you.
How do you think it's been for your family to read the book? Because I've been close down years with a few people who have been abused and spoken to their mothers, and some of those mothers felt a very personal responsibility, some of their parents felt a very personal responsibility. How do you think it's been for your family to read how your life has panned out?
So when I gave my mum the book, and she then texted me and just said she said I cried throughout and that was the saddest thing I've ever read. So I'm like, I was a bit confused because yes, the abuse bit is sad and the daughter chapter's hard hitting, and I was like, and she was like, no, the whole book, because I was so bravado, closed, didn't speak to anyone, even with the injuries, even with the Grosvenor House accusing of rape and how it tortured me, and these are the people closest to me, and they thought I was fine, they thought I was coping,
right.
And, you know what I mean, when really I was
internalising.
Yeah. So for your mum to read that and not know, she was like, and that's the same with my wife. So it's really hard for them, really hard to read it. And it's not just like you said, the book's not about just abuse. There's so many layers to the book. And reading the whole thing and just me being honest, brutally honest, because you don't really hear people being brutally honest.
No.
But basically saying,
I respect that a lot.
Basically saying, like even the Iron Apple, I was saying I'm a prick, and for them to, it's like I said, when I was going to do a book, I said I want to do it right, and I think just from seeing their reaction, and I've had Craig, DJ Spoonie, JJ, people close to me with friends who are not family reading it, and they're just like, respect to you, 100%.
I'll tell you one thing you can't say, mate. You haven't had a boring life, like.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You've got to do life, you may as well have some
when
shit.
I was talking about it and you say every chapter is a bit like wow, and people are like, he's just trying to sell books. I'm not, and I think you can vouch on it.
No, literally, I picked it up and I thought,
yeah.
I'll just skim over, and then fuck me, I'm like, chapter 15.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is one of those, it is worth reading, and if you want to buy it, I'm going to put the link in the description below as well, so anyone can just click on this video and buy it right now.
I think it's well worth reading.
Recommend it.
There's a lot of guys that we have on this show who, well, we've had a few people on the show where I've thought you've had a very sad life, but you still don't maybe face up to some of the stuff that's happened. And some people try and put a gold tint on their story. But
you haven't painted yourself into the best light or anything. You've just cut it how it is, really.
I imagine that was an incredibly sort of relieving experience as well. Just sort of being able to tell your story and almost tell the truth in a way, rather than wrap it up in something else.
Yeah. Again, when this book was come about about 4.5 years ago, it was in the making. We started doing it, and then I went into the jungle, and then it got put in the back shelf, and then we started up again. And I always say, with like people say about Craig's book, and everyone's like, oh, it's an amazing book, and Oliver Holt wrote his book and wrote my book, and he was saying incredible, and I was like, it's politically correct, if you know what I mean. It's a good book, but
it's not the real Craig, do you mean?
Yeah, that kind of thing, that because a lot of players do their books while they're still playing, so they've got to be a certain way. You've got implies and stuff, and I think I was fortunate that I haven't got no ties. Yes, I am employed by Ipswich as a coach, but as I said to the people who employ me, I said, look, this book is educated. Every 16-year-old who is at our football club should take home a copy of my book, and this is the dangers of what happens with wealth, fame, and if, like you said, that puts these people and what happens. And if I go into, because someone's been on to me about, I think Joey Barton's doing a book launch up and down the country, like a sit down, I think it's called the No Nonsense Store, and would I be interested in doing it? I've had some management company, and I said I'd rather go into have academy kids, 16-year-old, 17-year-old kids, and sit and talk to them like this in a way, and tell them. I think that would be more beneficial, and it gives a great purpose of why this book's out there.
Well, the last question I've got for you, mate.
Yeah.
How would you like to be remembered?
Oof. Wow. Didn't know. I weren't prepped for that.
Yeah, Alan said the same thing.
Yeah.
I'll ask it to everyone, so I think it gives them a good idea of who you really are if you put out what you would like people to say about you.
I would like to be remembered as someone that learnt from their mistakes and bettered themselves as a human being. But we've talked about a lot of underachievement, and I think I mentioned this before, and when you look at my ability and talent I had, did I underachieve in my career? I did, but again, what I endured as a kid and dealt with that all on my own, to play 1 minute of football, professional football, I think is a success.
Mm-hmm.
So I have mixed emotions about my career, but to overcome what I did and make a career is brilliant in itself. But on the other hand, I should have been mentioned with some of the better players of this country. But again, like I said, I've learnt from my mistakes, and I hope just you lot having me for 2 hours, people can see that I am generally okay.
I've had a good time, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. Cheers, pal.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Nice one. Once again, if you want to get Kieron's book, links in the description below. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, hit the thumbs up, stay subscribed. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later.